versus Uther.
Hello everyone, this is IHOP TV.
And my name is Bri Bri.
Sorry, Bri, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sorry, my name is Bri Bri.
We'll be starting the first rounds of the ViperTech Hearthstone Community Gaming Tournament. And it looks like we're going to have Paladin versus Paladin to start off. Go ahead and give us an analysis on what you think, what decks you think we'll be seeing here.
So it looks like we do have a fairly standard aggressive deck from both sides. Maybe we do see China Rules going with the more control style. You know, we do see this Aldor Peacekeeper in his hands, where it seems like with the Divine Favor, the Argent Horse Rider, and the Arcane Golem, Gus is going to be very aggressive.
Yeah, it looks like they're both going full ham here. I think it's going to be a pretty interesting match. Now, do you think healing becomes a big part of this?
I think it really depends what we're going to see from China Rules' deck, because he's going to be the one with, if there is going to be any healing, it will be coming from him. And so right now we do see that the burden of trading is going to be on China Rules because of the aggressive nature. But interestingly enough, he decides to go face. What do you think of that play?
Well, I think it's a pretty strong play. Maybe he's counting on getting enough damage in first or picking up a Consecrate. I think he knows he's up against Avenge right there, and he doesn't really want to buff up his minions yet.
Yeah, exactly. I do think China Rules has to be careful. I mean, obviously, I think the play here is going to be Coin Belcher to stop that aggression. But I'm interested to see why he decided to go face instead of trading with the Argent Horse Rider in that other scenario.
Belcher very strong in this matchup, but Gus already has a pretty significant lead at this point. That Divine Favor is going to really play into this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do again think it's interesting that he decided not to trade into one of those 1/1 spiders. I think it would have been a good idea considering the potential Blessing Kings that might have come from the side of Gus. And in this scenario, we're actually going to see that become kind of a bane for him, as that 1/1 is going to be able to connect with face as the Argent Horse Rider comes down.
Now, China Rules having Dr. Boom here in his hand, do you think that's a little bit slow for such a face hunter?
I think China Rules, obviously, you know, he's running the slower deck, but right now, unfortunately for him, he might not even get a chance to play that Dr. Boom, as the aggression is coming in hot and heavy from Gus, and there's nothing about really China Rules has in his hand to be able to deal with that aggression.
Yeah,
he already used the Belcher.
He doesn't have anything to slow him down at this point. Not a whole lot of value out of that Peacekeeper, but he definitely needed a 3/3 body on the board.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just going to have to hope for China Rules that maybe he has some healing in his deck. If he does, that's what he's going to have to search for. Because it looks like right now we do have 4 damage, 6 damage, 7 damage in the hand of Gus, potentially 8 with this match over those face.
Now, for those of you on the stream who are watching, you'll notice that the both players are represented by a Pikachu and a Sailor Moon. We didn't actually have time to get the players to stream in and give us their feed from Skype, so we threw in a little character faces just for giggles.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do actually think it's a tad bit of a misplay not to trade the Leopardome into the Elder Peacekeeper there. That would save him from, because now the Elder Peacekeeper is going to be able to trade into whatever it wants, and including the Knife Juggler, and we would have got those 2 damage anyways. And now we see a big taunt coming up, and this 90 is going to be a huge deal for Gus to have to deal with.
This is China Rules' turn to swing the game back into his favor. He's got enough power, and he's going full ham. I like that move.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that was the right play, because if he were to trade the Aldor, that would be he would not have lethal for that next turn. So now he has lethal set up, and now it's on the hands of Gus to try to find an alternative out of the situation.
Unfortunately, the value of that Divine Favor wasn't nearly as significant as it could have been, but he should be able to stabilize the board and keep himself from losing this round.
Yeah, absolutely. Now this is going to become very close, and I think both players are very close to be able to win. We are going to see some damage picked up on the side of China Rules, and he does not find it. So
he only needed to find 1 point of damage for lethal. Puts him in an awkward position.
Yeah, and I think it's just because the game 1's going to have to go over to Gus. I don't think there's anything he can do to stop the pain train. I guess if he trades in both. No, because even if he trades in, you have to trade in. Yeah, he has to kill all 3 1/1s because of that blessing there. So
Let's see if he knows that. Of course, we've got full view of the board, and oh, he goes ham, leaving 1 on the board. That's going to be enough to end the game. First game goes to Gus.
What a sad mistake. Oh, that's so unfortunate for him.
Gus had a strong control of the board the entire game. It was certainly his game to lose, but we kind of had some hope there for China Rules at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a total misplay to not to kill that 1-1. That extra couple points of damage I don't think was super relevant considering it boom on the board, and there's only one card, about to be two in the hands of Gus. I think it was absolutely the right play to go ahead and trade that 1-1 just in case. I think he should have had that Blessing of Kings in his mind, having already seen a Blessing of Might. I mean, he already saw a ton of buffs from the hand of Gus, and he should have expected more.
So both players are picking their decks and queuing up into the next match. Now, one thing to note is that in Conquest match, once you've won with one deck, you're not allowed to use it again. You have to win with all three decks in order to be victorious.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we are going to see if this is indeed Control Warrior versus Freeze Mage, which it looks like it is. I don't think there's really any chance that China Rose can win this game, unfortunately. But I think we are going to see Gus go up 2-1, as Freeze Mage just has such a hard time versus Control Warrior.
Yeah, there's just too much armor to break through, even with Alex Straza. Unfortunately, he's just going to have to make sure he gets the damage in quickly before the Warrior can get down the Justicar Trueheart and start getting out that full armor at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. The burden is totally on China Rules to make something crazy happen in this matchup. As if you place the matchup conventionally, you'll definitely lose versus the Control Warrior.
Now, one thing I've noticed tournament casters do, and I'm trying my best to be impartial about this, is when you're looking at the board from your view, you tend to root for the player that is sitting where you would be sitting, and it's kind of hard to keep yourself impartial and make strong commentary towards the other player. Have you noticed this watching professional tournaments?
Not very much, but one thing I would like to point out is it does appear that Gus is going with, now that we see that Unstable Gold being put in his hand, we do see that he is probably in that maybe a little bit more Patron Warrior aspect. I do think the Sludge Belcher was a good keep. Unfortunately, a lot of the tools in the hands of Gus is not going to be relevant to Freeze Mage. That Bash isn't going to be relevant, that Execute's not going to be relevant. So I think that Sludge Butcher is, once that goes down in turn 5, it'll be the first really relevant play we'll be able to make.
So pretty slow start as to be expected between Freeze Mage and Patron Tank Warrior. They both just want to fill up their hands with answers, and since none of them are putting anything on the board to answer, there's really nothing to answer. Kind of a slow match, but it should be interesting come the end.
Yeah, so I think, obviously the correct play here is to Acolyte and then ping it to draw more cards. You really want to get that card draw up, especially against Control Warrior, because you want to have your tools to burn through that armor as fast as possible. And it doesn't look like that's exactly what China Rules is going to do.
A little hesitation. He's wondering if he has to deal with Patron should it come out to the board, because he does not have the Doomsayer for that clear that he'd need.
Yeah, absolutely. Fortunately for him, he does have that Flame Strike, which is one of those really beneficial tools for dealing with Patron if he does come out. But we are seeing a little bit of a mixed bag, because I don't really think Patron would normally run cards like Justicar or Bash.
That's true. Now, Flame Strike is not something you see a whole awful lot in Freeze Mage. What do you think he had to cut to throw that in?
Maybe some torches, maybe a Healbot or two. I oftentimes see the torch or the Flame Strike being substitute there. Fortunately enough, we do see the Archmage, and that is going to be his tool to win. I think if I were China Rules, I would have held on to that Thorson a little bit longer. I think that was the incorrect play. I think I would have waited for way more spells to, or just a better position where you knew that Gus had already used some of his removal, because now, unfortunately for him, Gus is just going to be able to generate a ton of armor off this with that Bash and with that Armor Smith. And, the only way that China Rules can really win this map, or this matchup, is he's going to be able to get almost infinite number of spells off of Archmage and Tinnitus.
Yeah, that, Thor is saying, while reducing almost a full hand, only really gave him removal. It didn't actually push him towards victory. He'll probably have to waste an Ice Lance just to get a Fireball, and at this point in the game, you don't really want to be doing that.
Yeah, so we can already see that Gus already has a ton of armor. He's almost up to, what is that now? I've got it math, 30 plus 16,
it's 36.
46 armor. He's got 46 armor and he's about to get bigger.
Yeah, that's going to take forever to break through. He would need the Archmage and Tinnitus stealth, generating the fireballs to get through that. Like I said earlier, even Alex Strauss is not going to help him at this point. It looks like, again, Gus is in a commanding lead, and it is once again his game to lose. But maybe we'll see something come out of China Rules that we're not expecting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if China Rules is going to be able to win this game, he's going to have to bait out, I think, even both Executes before he even plays Antonius. So maybe we can see him. What I'd actually like to see from from China Rules here now is try to play the long game. He's obviously ahead on cards a bit. I'd like to see him try to wait back, maybe not use his card draw tools as much, try to put things on the board that Gus has to answer, or at least has to try to answer, so that he can get his XP out. But it looks like he's just going ham wild, trying to get as much damage as possible right away, and throwing at that Frost Nova.
Unfortunate having to use the Frost Lance to take down the Justly Guard, but it does remove a threat and possibly keep that Archmage Antonidas on the board a little bit longer.
Yeah, and we don't see a way from Gus to be able to answer that right now. He's obviously gonna have to shield block to try to draw some cards so that he can find an answer, but that XP in hand is gonna do nothing as he's got nothing to activate it with.
A little prayer goes out to the RNGesus. The Archmage is going to do an awful lot of damage, but he's still got to burn through almost 50 health.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, China Rules has a long way to go if he wants to try to win this matchup. But not having an answer to Antonidas on the first turn is definitely a good start. And we do see the Elise Starseeker, so this is a monkey warrior.
Interesting choice. I did not expect to see that at all.
And I actually think the correct play here is, I think China Rules has to Frost Nova again. You can't really risk any damage being put out onto his Archmage Antonidas.
That is the token that's pretty much going to save this game for him, if he can keep it alive long enough.
Oh, interesting. We do see him instead going and attempting to fireball the Slug Collection. Unfortunately, I just think that's the wrong play, as he's not really counting for that speed that's now going to be active, kind of canceling out his only way to win this game.
Yeah, he had to really pray that the Execute was not in his hand. Unfortunately, we can see that it is there, and that will be removing his win token. Unless he has something else powerful sitting on deck, I think that might be kind of a losing point of this game.
Yeah. It didn't actually turn out to matter, because we did see that Gus picked up that Shield Slam the next turn, so even if he had not activated Archmage Antonidas, Gus still would have been able to kill it, but I still think it was the correct play to Frost over the board and Fireball.
Oh, don't be silly. 26 damage is not nearly enough to kill Archmage Antonidas.
He is too strong.
If only you could shield slam face. I love seeing those instances where that, what's the name of the minion where the damage goes?
Wrathguard?
Yeah, it comes out of the piloted shredder and just costs you the game.
Yeah, well, unfortunately now that Archmage Antonidas is dead, I don't see any way that China Rules can really punch into this match in the game.
You know, being almost such a strong control deck of the Frost Mage, how do you like putting at least into the deck and hoping for the monkey? That would give you a win condition later on in the game.
You know, obviously I think against other control, I think the Elise is in there to beat other control warriors, maybe even control priest, as having all those legendaries late game. If you're trying to play a more fatigue style, you will eventually hit that monkey. And obviously, the game that controller wants to play is a slow one. So this does give you a win condition if the game goes on, and I think that is really important. Where if you're able to run your opponent out of things, but you just need a way to finish off the game, the monkey's obviously able to do that.
Yeah, all damage going ham here. He's really hoping he can get enough down to win this, and I guess it just becomes a race at this point.
Yeah, absolutely, but unfortunately, I just don't think that that China Rules is going to be able to put enough damage to get through all of Gus's armor. I mean, there's just so much there, and he's almost out of fireballs at this point, and he still hasn't even gotten below 30 health.
What could he have sitting in his deck that could possibly bring this game back for him? Maybe a Ysera, or yeah, I can't even think what would put forth enough threat and damage.
From a normal freeze mage deck, I don't really foresee any possible out that he would have a normal deck. I mean, obviously now we can see that Gus is going to be able to fill up the board, and now China Rules is going to be taking almost 14 damage a turn. That Upstrike is a little bit of a help, but he can't really play it on the current board because Sylvanas would take it.
True. Now, the Flame Strike seems like pretty much the only move at this point. Maybe you Blizzard to buy yourself some time, but what's the follow-up to that Blizzard? You can't even get full value out of the Antique Healbot at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Even if you Blizzards, the problem with that too is that's going to put a ton more armor onto Gus as the armor smith is before.
Yeah, China Rules having very confident plays all the way up into this point, and you can see now he's kind of slowed down to start calculating his decisions, whereas Gus, I think he knows his move before he gets his next card.
Yeah, I think unfortunately for China Rules, he just kind of queued up into a bad matchup. So and that is a really, really unfortunate circumstance for him, being that control warrior versus that mage. I think he was expecting maybe Gus to pull out an aggro shaman or something like that. I think I did see shaman in his lineup, and it really, really, really sucks for China Rules that he matched up like this. But unfortunately, there's not much you can do about it. And he is going to be behind a game because of that misplay he made in the Paladin Mirror, where he could not kill that remaining 1-1. And, if you think about how much farther he'd be ahead, where maybe Gus would have to, Gus would obviously have to play that Paladin again, and have to get through that Freeze Mage deck, and he might not have queued up the Freeze Mage versus the Control Warrior.
So going forward, what do you think he does? Assuming he's not able to collect this game, does he go back to his mid-range paladin to fight against the next, or do you think he sticks on this free Mage? Or perhaps we'll see his third deck.
So the third deck from Gus is indeed a Warlock deck. So
probably full Zoo.
Yeah. So if it's Zoo, if you're expecting Zoo, I think you'd want to go with the Freeze Mage deck, Demon Lock. I would go with the Paladin, or a Handlock variant. And interesting enough, we did see Gus play that Golden Monkey. I guess he's trying to save and wait. So, because he has a lot of removal in hand, I think he wants to wait for Alexstrasza first before he plays that Monkey.
Yeah, that would be a safe play. At this point, he has so many options, and he can even just wait. I mean, the amount of armor he's able to collect up each round. He knows that his opponent's running out of fireballs. He knows that his opponent's running out of damage, and will probably only have removal left.
Yes, absolutely. And now what we may be able to see, though, is I actually do think it's a smart play for Gus to hold on to that Monkey. If you think about it now, if China Rules is able to burn through this armor, then play Alexstrasza, and there was only legendaries, and Gus had no answer to Alexstrasza, he might just be China Rules might just be able to punch face with Alexstrasza, and then maybe get something off like a Frost Nova to freeze it on the board, or an Ice Lance to freeze the big minion that came down with the Golden Monkey. And so I think it is fortunate for China Rules that if he's gonna have any way in this match, it's gonna have to be after Alexstrasza.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like Gus is going to be making any terrible mistakes at this point. He's been playing pretty solid games so far. It looks like his decks are well thought out, and I think he knows when is the right time to Monkey, and it looks like now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I might have waited for the Alexstrasza and thought about that, because that is now the only way that China Rules has back into this game. I think the play here might have been to play Alexstrasza and then freeze the Monkey, and then check him out for best. But you may also be able to wait for Gus to play out a handful of legendaries and use that Frost Nova Doomsday combo he doesn't.
That might give him a chance to get back in the game, and I think China Rules understands that. At this point, he can go back to doing full control, but does he have enough removal? I mean, he's going to be seeing threat after threat land on this board.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you pick up here?
Looks like he grabbed the look at my other screen. +10/+10 to each minion. Lantern of Power.
Interesting. I do think that's probably the correct one, as he's going to be able to punch a lot of face damage here. But unfortunately, though, if you make one minion too big, then once it connects with face, you may be in a situation where you leave that ice block, or if you hit him with too much health left, the ice block will be procced with maybe 10-15 health left, and then you might run into an awkward situation.
True, but that Ragnaros is going to start cranking out damage, even if he does end up dropping the Frost Nova Doomsday.
Yeah, absolutely. At this point, when you're facing down this much damage as China Rules, I think you have to drop the Frost Nova Doomsday combo here, because even if you do the Blizzard, it's not going to stop any damage from Ragnaros.
And praying for the Ragnaros to hit your face instead of the Doomsayer is an unfortunate situation. Now, he can put down the Loot Hoarder, and perhaps the Ragnaros shot will go to the Loot Hoarder instead of the face.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
That seems to be the only play at this point. Oh, Pyroblast, straight to ham. Alright, so he's going for a damage race.
I think at this point, China Rules has realized he's not really going to win this matchup, and just has to kind of pray and hope that the Alexstrasza will be able to hit twice to the face, and so he's got to burn through all that armor first if that's what he wants to do.
Yeah, it's a smart play. At this point, playing to keep yourself alive is not going to end winning the game. You really need to play to win.
Absolutely. I think that's what a lot of players in the ladder may not realize, is sometimes they keep making plays and defensive plays and defensive plays. Just, I need to do this to stay alive, I need to do this to stay alive. What if he has this? Or sometimes you can make plays, they'll. But if you keep making defensive plays and you keep barely staying alive, you will just eventually run out and lose. Whereas if you, sometimes you just really have to try to take big risks for a chance to win. I don't think that's going to work out for China Rules today.
If you take a look at the remaining decks, there's only 2 cards left in China Rules' hands, so he's also on a clock now as well.
I'm almost out of cards.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. He is almost out of cards if he's using Behaving Fatigue, so he has to play at least the Ice Block here. I think, well, if we see Ice Nova and then the Frost Nova Doomsayer, or I'm sorry, we'll see the Ice Block and then the Frost Nova Doomsayer, and then maybe another minion to try to distract from the Ragnar shot, and hope it hits that rather than face proccing the block or the Doomsayer.
Yeah, correct. We're just coming to the end of this game. He's going to have to keep dropping. He's going to have to drop that last Ice Block, which really isn't going to do him good. Getting the fatigue the next round, and I think he knows that. Really, the only chance he had at this point, and I'm not even sure he has enough damage, would have had enough damage to do it, would be for that Sneeds to drop, damn, what's the 9/7 that turns you into Ragnaros?
Oh, what is it? Major Domo? I think you're correct.
That would have been the only chance at this point, and that's like praying for a Doomsayer out of a piloted Shredder. It really just isn't enough to count on winning.
Yeah, unfortunately he did not put up the Ice Block, he went for Blizzard instead, and the Garrosh. Now we are going to see, the only remaining deck from Gus is going to be that Warlock. And I think, to try to split the difference, I would personally suggest the mid-range Paladin, as that's going to be better on average. I mean, obviously the Freeze Mage is going to be better against the Zoo. The mid-range will be way better against the Handlock variant, and whatever, depending on the kind of Shaman, will probably be better against the Handlock variant as well. Of that Warlock, and so I think the best option is to split the difference. Because, I mean, obviously he's got to win, he's got to beat this Warlock with all 3 of his decks anyways, so I might try to start out with maybe the Paladin to give you confidence.
So we're just waiting for the players to queue up. It looks like they're both getting started. They're probably picking their decks at this point. Maybe China Rules is taking some time to consider what he's going to do. Obviously, Gus can only choose his final deck at this point. The game is starting up, and we'll jump right into it.
Yeah, I think unfortunately we did really see that negative impact that slight misplay of not killing the Silverhand Recruit had on China Rules. Because, I mean, if he had done that, that would have won him the first game, and it would now be a 1-1 even split. And but unfortunately, you know, and we also would see that this is the Zoo variant, so China Rules' Freeze Mage would have a great time against both this Zoo variant of Warlock and the Paladin that we saw from Gus. And that misplay, I think, in the Paladin mirror has cost him so much. That's so unfortunate.
You know, I do fully believe in the power of momentum. Once you've got a game under your belt, I mean, it's just the confidence that keeps you going. I know it doesn't affect what you draw, but it does make you feel much better about how the tournament in general is going to go for you.
So thinking about the China Rules here, it does appear that he's playing a Battle Cry Shaman, which is pretty interesting. With China Rules here, after seeing that tab, I think I would have to expect more of a Handlock variant. At first I thought, because I saw the Im-Gang boss in the hand of Gus, I thought it was a Zoo variant, but you know, now we are seeing that Sun Tree Protector, so it seems like maybe it's like a middle of the road, mid-rangey kind of guy. I have seen this deck run before to some success, and it's gonna be, I think, up to China Rules to find the best way to counter.
You know, this isn't something you see on ladder terribly often. A lot of synergy counting on this deck. I think card draw is very important. Sequencing for this. It should be an interesting back and forth game. I guess the winner probably goes to whoever can keep the most threats on the board or whoever can clear the best.
Yes, absolutely. And so now, unfortunately with this play, we are seeing China Rules pump a lot of health or a lot of resources into buffing up those frogs, but that 1/1 from that drops from the imp will be able to clean up that frog, that one frog easily. Oh, never mind. He had the beetle he can trade. I'm crazy.
All right, so let's do a little bit of hypothetical discussion here. Let's say he wins this match. How does this Freeze Mage stack up against this mid-range aggro Warlock?
I think he'll be in a good position because I don't think this deck we're seeing from Gus has enough pressure to pump out damage so fast that Freeze Mage just can't handle it enough. But I do think it'll be able to control the late game well, as there's going to be with cards like Sylvanas. Sylvanas is terrible against Freeze Mage, as there's no, as there's obviously not a whole lot of minions that Freeze Mage puts out. And yeah, we did see that. Luckily for China Rules, he's off to a good start. He's going to just get the best possible drop from that Tusk Epidemic.
Now, Gus seems to have a pretty unique spread of his mid-range. I'm guessing there's a Reno somewhere in this deck.
You might be right. I haven't seen a duplicate in the deck so far. And if there is we did already see that Gus ran the, what was it? He had the Elise and his Warrior. And so we could see some interesting decks come out from him. And unfortunately, I do think China Rules should have buffed the 2-1 and traded to the Shredder, or traded the Tusk card to the Shredder. So I think that distribution and placing might have been a little off. But we'll have to see how that plays out for him.
Yeah, keeping the board clear to make sure a big wipe like that Shadow Flame definitely would have been in his favor. I think he might have to prey on this Lightning Storm.
There is potential for lethal here. If he Lightning Storms and he rolls 6 on the Crackle, he will be 1 off lethal.
Do you think he risks it, or do you think he drops the Azure and just goes for the safe play?
Well, he should drop a Totem first. I guess he doesn't have enough mana. So he's going to be 1 off lethal. There was no way for him to achieve lethal in this scenario because he had a max 10 damage. But he did get lucky, and I did roll for 3. So we do see that Gus is either going to have to try to heal or Implosion here.
Yeah, it looks like Anti-Killbot is about his only play. Implosion would be pretty risky, although he is 2 games ahead, so he does have a little bit of leverage.
The reason I think Implosion's the wrong play here is because even though China Rules has no damage in his hand, if there was any burn, he would have been able to burn through it. So essentially, if he had played the Anti-Killbot, he would have been at, hypothetically, he would have gone up to 9, but then he would have taken the 4. So it would have been at technically 5 health, where now he was technically at 1 the whole time, and it turned out to pay off for him and not be an issue, as China Rules didn't have any damage to follow, but it was a pretty risky play.
But that was a very big play. The game has actually started to swing back in his favor at the moment, and as a person who plays Flash Priest, I can't tell you how wonderful it feels to turn a game around at 1 hit point and come back.
Yes, absolutely. Now, interesting enough, we do see 2 Battle Cry cards in the hand of Gus. So I think the correct play here is to try to play, is to save that Aethervake and to try to play maybe a Totem and then Contact Totem, and then with the Flame Totem as well. It does look like that is what he's going for, which I do believe is the correct play. That's he's going to be able to put a lot of taunts, which are going to be able to protect his Aethervake once he drops that, and he's going to be able to allow the damage to face. And unfortunately, oh no.
Unfortunate ordering. If he plans on going ham with that, he definitely should have taken the strike first.
If he does decide to trade it into the Game Hunter or the Anti-Killbot, it wouldn't actually matter, but unfortunately it does as he decides to go face, so that ordering was pretty unfortunate for China Rules.
Do you think that 1 damage will affect the end of this game? Now, we've already seen him down to 1 hit point, but I think at this point, if he gets him down to low enough, it's just going to be game.
Well, you never know. I think this 1 health between being at 6 or 5, if he picks up another Crackle or something like that, or another one of those Shaman variants spells, that 1 damage might matter a lot.
Even Lava Burst would win the game for him right now.
Yeah, if he had the attack first while playing.
So, again, we've seen a wide variety of cards here. I really do believe that we're going to find a Reno somewhere in that deck, and that's really going to turn the game around.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Gus was really hoping and praying for that Reno. Is that? No, it's not going to be lethal, but that is going to get him closer. So if China Rules is able to draw some sort of face damage before Gus draws the Reno, which we do believe is in his deck, then this game could still go over to China Rules.
So again, we were saying 1 damage probably shouldn't matter, but at this point he would be at 3, so... Oh, Jiraxis. I did not expect to see that card.
Yeah, absolutely. That actually is a big pickup for Gus, as that is going to gain him a ton of health. And he's just going to be able to pump out those 6/6s every turn. I don't think China Rules is going to have a way to deal with it, as he's really, really low on cards and has, now no board presence.
Oh, so, okay, so there's the 3 damage he was waiting for last round. that'll start to clear the board a little bit for him, but I don't think it's going to be... I don't think it's going to be enough at this point, because he can just drop his Doom Guard to clear that if he feels threatened.
Interesting enough, we didn't see a totem from China Rules, but I'm not really sure what the play behind that was. So it does look like we are going to see Gus how overwhelmed his strength there, which is, I guess probably correct, is he's just trying to get board control, and he's going to be able to get it just fine with his 6/6 he's going to pump at every turn.
Yeah, I can't imagine any reason for not dropping a totem there. I think China Rules is getting discouraged and just had a bit of a misplay.
Yeah, absolutely. Ooh, he's getting the burn just a little too late. And I think, unfortunately, now that Gus has been able to swing the game back in his favor with Tetraxis, I do not think China Wolf is really going to be able to pull any tricks out of his hat to be able to win this matchup.
Now, that was an interesting play. Personally, I would have dropped the Azure Drake and hoped to pick up another bit of burn, and then when you draw on your next turn, have a third bit of burn, which you probably could crank out 13 damage with.
Yeah, that is true. You know, we do still see a couple turns for China Rules. If he does have more burn in his deck, he can draw some big things. And he already has he had two spell totem, or two spell power rather, minions that turn. And so with this, he's gonna have two draws really here. And so I think if he picks up, well, I guess, second Crackle and the second Lightning Burst with the spell damage from Azure Drake, he should be able to pull something off. But unfortunately, the DC Star just not gonna get it.
I don't think he can come up with 8. Well, he might be able to come up with a Crackle if he drops the Azure Drake, drops a totem and gets spell power, gets a Crackle and rolls high. Big if.
He needs exactly the max draw. Oh,
that's not going to do
that's
it.
Unfortunate.
I believe that will be the end of the game. I don't think there's anything he can do at this point.
I'm trying to look for answers, but the only minion he can kill on the board is either Siphonis or the Owl, and that still would leave. And even if he kills the Siphonis, he gives Gus a 5/5, so it's still going to leave a ton of damage on board.
Yeah, he's fishing too, but I don't think it's going to happen for him. Very quick and decisive games played. We saw Gus just completely storm through, although in this game he was down 1 hit point and turned it around. Something I didn't expect to see happening, but still very impressive. First game goes to Gus. Our first match, I should say.
You know, unfortunately, we did really see that that misplay that we saw from China Rules in the first game, where he didn't kill that 1/1 that really led to his lethal. He was not able to use that victory to stall up the series of matches a little bit more, and that's just so unfortunate that he had to lose because of that. And then after that, he was able to round up the rest of the game because he was just that 1 damage off lethal. In the last game, it really was just a matter of RNG that cost him.
Okay, so it looks like some of the other games are wrapping up right now. We're going to have to decide which game we're going to cast. We're going to mute the stream right now while we're figuring that out, and we'll be right back with everyone. Go ahead, lead us up.
Alright, we are back with Gus versus XXX. And we do seem to be in a control warrior mirror.
Resident Sleeper in the chat. It's going to be a long game for sure, unless they can get some really swing patron or frothing berserker plays out.
So we actually originally thought that Gus was running a patron warrior, but it appears that he's actually running an elite Star Seeker Golden Monkey warrior, where we do see more of the patron style maybe than from XXX.
Keep going.
I'm just holding out and hoping for patron from one of these guys. It is one of my favorite decks to see nowadays. I do kind of miss the Ed 1 get in here days.
Alright, I am updating the players in the view. As I said, we don't actually have their Skypes, but we still have Gus as Sailor Moon. He's going to be Sailor Moon for the rest of this tournament, and he's playing against XXX, who is represented by Courage the Cowardly Dog.
That's wonderful.
So I really like the 3-4. When the monkey, when the game first started, you saw a lot of 3-4s that were very unique to each player's class, and I thought a 3-4 taunt would be perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think it fits kind of that niche very well in a control warrior or a warrior that's trying to run a little bit of a faster game. And it is able to stop that aggro pretty well and keep the survivability while still holding up with enough pressure.
So right now, having the Death Spite down a little bit of hit points was actually beneficial to him because he can use the why am I blanking on names today? Battle Rage to draw cards from himself as well as any damage minions he has on the board. He's probably going to be dropping that Armor Smith and going to kill the Frothing Berserker, picking up a little bit of armor and putting a damage minion on the board.
Yeah, I think XXX was trying to drop the Frothing Berserker in order to try to get him to use up that Death Spite. So I was using a little bit of range from XXX, as I think he's got bigger plans later that he doesn't want the Death Spite connecting with. So let's see if he falls for the bait or not. But he does, there's that inner rage that can be used to make big things out of that Frothing Berserker.
Now we got through most of Gus's deck, and we did get to see almost all of it. Did we see a Reno Jackson in it? Because I know we saw a wide variety of cards in this Control Warrior.
No, I think there's probably, like you said, a Reno Jackson in his Warlock deck, but I don't think there's any in his Control Warrior deck.
Okay, have we seen anything unique out of XXX's deck? It looks pretty standard so far. We haven't seen Patron, although we've seen most of the setup for it. We have 2 Frothings there, so Reno's probably not in hand. Or buried anywhere.
Yes. I think actually, what play do you make here, do you think? Drop the other Frothing, or do you drop both of them?
It's kind of a tough play at this choice. You're giving him a Loatheb if you drop it. Looks like he's hoping that Death Spike's gonna bounce off the Unstable Ghoul and crank up a lot of damage on his Frothings.
Yes, I actually think I didn't see that play at first. That is an amazing play. That has the potential for so much damage to come out from XXX with those Frothing Berserkers. That could just put a ton of pain in your basic stuff.
So if he really wanted to mess with him, he could drop his own Unstable Ghoul, and use this Death Spike to kill that Unstable Ghoul, and Whirlwind for, oh, is that only 3 damage? That would be very unfortunate for him. Never mind.
I think his only play here might even just be to brawl and hope for staying kill fairly easily without a lot of mess. And obviously, any of these 3 targets are fine, so you're basically experiencing the kill. I think it's, it is interesting that we do see that Acidic Swamp is in a hand of him, guys, because it's going to allow him to. That's a very good card in this matchup. It's going to allow him to put under the weapons that XXX should put out, which we probably are going to see a Death Spike from XXX in the future. And there it is in hand.
But he doesn't have any targets to remove with at this point. So the Loatheb, I mean, Loatheb you kind of want to do to keep control of the board. Playing it on an empty board doesn't really do you a whole awful lot because he's just going to drop a threat to go up against it. I would say this would probably be a good turn to show Elise.
I would agree. I think Elise and then maybe the Symbol or maybe the Fire War Axe would the best play here. Even arming up would probably be fine.
I think the Fire War Axe is good just to prepare it at this point, but unfortunately, there's not too many threats left that Fire War Axe is good against. We're kind of past that point in the game.
That's correct. I do think actually that attack that Gus made was probably the right one, as now this means that Lothar can't get like buff or enrage to go face without there being a lot of pain, and it also can't. If he runs into Elise, he's done as well.
Definitely leveraging his hero's hit points as an asset in this game. One thing a lot of people tend to forget to do, but if you play Warrior with a Golden Warrior here, he certainly does play Warrior. I think that's something that he accounts for in almost every game.
So it looks like he's going face with Lothar, which I do believe is the correct play, as he's on the aggressive foot, and Gus is the one trading the whole game. So I think it's smart to. I don't think hitting Elise with his weapon was the right play, but I do think that going face with Lothar was, because that really forces action. It really forces Gus to trade. It forces Gus to save the entire going back to him.
I see what he was doing with the hit to Elise. That way, the next round he could use the Death Spike to clear any threats that are on the board, and use the Whirlwind to get the one last hit point of damage on at least. But I agree with you, that's not a play I would have done.
Yeah, because then what that allows you to do is allow Gus to just kind of get all that damage for free. Because he had to trade in Elise anyway for the most part. He didn't really have a whole lot else in the team to do with it. And so, I mean, he would have to run that into. Like, that was still the best play, even if it had 5 pelts to run that into all said. And so I think he just kind of gave Gus a free Death Spike charge and 4 damage wasted.
So at this point, the game could pretty much go either way. Dropping that Alkali of Pain would be pretty good, knowing that there's a Whirlwind effect coming up soon. But we're starting to see XXX run out of steam. The only thing he has left is kind of an endgame clear, or, his win condition. That doesn't leave any threats on the board to counter whatever Gus is going to be putting up.
We do see that Gorehell used. I think it's probably smart to try to get ahead on the army. He doesn't really want XXX to go opponents to repel. We haven't seen if XXX is running those patrons, we haven't seen this yet. I think you're still right. We could still see a Reason deck from Gus. Even though we saw most of his deck the last time we seen this deck, I still haven't seen any duplicates.
Not the draw that XXX was looking for. Unfortunately, right now, he's still sitting on that win condition, but doesn't have his opponent down at enough hit points to go ahead and execute that. Now, if Gus has been paying attention, he knows that he's been sitting on those 2 cards the whole game and top decking for the past couple of rounds. Do you think he's taking that into account?
I think, even though there is a matter to that. I think
sorry, don't mean to cut you off, but whatever you just did, your mic is much clearer now. Keep that.
Okay, cool. I think there's not really a whole lot, though. Like, even if Gus has been paying attention to those 2 cards, those could be 2 removals, those could be 2. You haven't really seen, up until the Sylvanas, we haven't seen Gus play a whole lot of really huge threats yet that would warrant strong removal. So I think up until this point, those could also be removal cards. But I think you might be considering that those are 2 either combo pieces or ending cards. Unfortunately for XXX, we do see him now pick up this Grim Patron Warrior, which will lead to good stuff in the future.
He has used a lot of his Whirlwind effects already. With a Brawl in hand, Gus can handle that, but of course XXX doesn't know that. It looks like if he can figure out a way to get rid of that slime, or get enough patrons on the board, he should be in good shape. The biggest problem is that Sylvanas right now. If he fills the board up with patrons, she's going to take one of them. And because of Murphy's Law, she's going to take the one with the most health.
Yeah, absolutely. And so now we do see XXX finally to pick up, he's picked up the setup he needs. Like you said earlier, he already used a ton of it on those Frothing Berserkers, and so we see that ball that Gus used earlier really pay off. And now XXX is kind of on the back foot.
Yeah, I think XXX needs to find his own Brawl at this point.
Dude, Patron Warrior's run Brawl there?
He's going to give his opponent a lot of armor doing this.
Yeah, absolutely, but I don't think he's really got a whole lot of other choices here, unfortunately.
So we're going to see a bunch of patrons spring onto the board. A Brawl is a pretty solid answer. Mind Control Tech, an even better answer. Did we see that last game? I don't think he had the chance to play that.
That's such an interesting. He got the place to steal 2 patrons.
Oh, a revenge. He's just getting all the answers he needs.
It's such a head of player like Gus to play these 2 cards, knowing that he has Death Flame and knowing that he's probably fixed. Now, that forced XXX to give him basically 3 cards and just a ton of armor.
So, you use your Alkalite to start to clear off that 3-1 that's left. And then, how much damage does that revenge do at this point? Just 1 damage, so he really can't use that right now. He could use
runs
the
there.
shield slam, he could use the brawl. If he brawls and his opponent keeps a patron on board, his Sylvanas will get it. I would go full ham right now and use that brawl.
He needs to mind control tech first, that way the patrons, that will guarantee the patron control. But I think you try to run the Sylvanas into one of the 2-health ones in order to see this doing a 3-3.
Well, he still has his Gorehowl too, so he can start clearing.
He gets lucky and he gets the 3-health one anyways. Now we're gonna see actually this super backfire as Gus is now left with all the bases, where actually he doesn't have any.
And he has such a significant lead, he can even monkey if he feels like it.
Yeah, and you know we have seen Gus really lucky on these map draws. You know, every time everyone else plays it, every time every streamer plays it, Monkey's always the last card in their deck, and map draw is the second last card in their deck.
He's also set himself up to replenish his board with patrons and fill up even more armor from that armor smith. Just in a great position. XXX calls the game.
Yeah.
Probably a good choice.
He realizes things are screwed. I think that was the case where I don't think really either. I mean, I think XXX probably should have held on to his tools a little bit more, but I understand why he was aggressive with those tools. And I think maybe if he had waited, he could have seen a better outcome. But I think it really was a lot of matter of card draw where, you know, Gus happened to have that mind control deck in hand, and he had that Sylvanas on board, and his cards were drawn in such a way that it put XXX into such an awkward position.
XXX definitely unloaded his hand very early with those 2 Frothing Berserkers and pawning it up with the Unstable Ghoul, but the Brawl just, it did wonders for Gus's play.
How do you feel about this matchup here?
We've got, what, was this a aggro Paladin against
I think it's
a mid-range control warrior?
aggro.
Yeah. Okay, so, against the Frothing Patron Warrior. I think if XXX can get the Frothing early, can get the Patron early, and keep the board clear until then, being up against such little minions will definitely play well with his Patron style.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always saw Patron, you know, back when it was the dominant deck before they nerfed War Song. We saw that a lot of strength came from because he was able to deal with early aggression really easily. And I think if XXX finds the right tools with, unfortunately, he doesn't have a whole lot in his hand, you know, besides the Fiery Wind Axe, then we can see him come out on top.
So the Divine Shielded Mini-Bot is definitely annoying. He can take 2 hits from that Fiery Wind Axe to clear. Do you coin out the Alkalite of Pain? It looks like that's what he's going to go with.
I would have pointed out, I would have tried to play the Unstable Ghoul instead, but I think, you know, obviously XXX has plans, and he wants to save that for his patience probably, so he's going to play the Acolyte of Pain.
So let's expand on that. What is your follow-up if you had dropped the Unstable Ghoul?
If I had dropped the Unstable Ghoul, I would probably either play, I mean, I think either Acolyte of Pain or the Frothing Berserker was a good follow-up next turn. Unfortunately, that Owl is going to come down on the Acolyte of Pain, which is going to be so rough, because that means that if XXX plays that Unstable Ghoul, and that's going to be able to wipe at the Divine Shield, it's going to be able to wipe out the Arabic Owl, and it's going to be able to wipe out all of the much battle tokens. But if that Suns had been saved for that Unstable Ghoul, or for you know, even any of the patrons later, I think it would have been a much better target.
Gus definitely wanted to make sure that he kept control of the board, and denying his opponent those crucial draws, knowing that he's up against a Frothing Berserker Patron Warrior, was a very smart play.
Yeah, so now we do see though that you know, Gus is getting a little bit of a lead as he's going to be able to get a tiny bit ahead on this board. An interesting choice to conserve that South Sea deckhand. I think he just doesn't want to get obliterated by a Whirlwind, which shows there's plenty of Whirlwind effects and actual effects.
So he had to have known that he was going to be losing the board. He knows what he's up against. He knows that there's Whirlwind effects all over the place. Does he just clear this out, let it die, and refill the board?
Yeah, I think honestly, in this type of deck that Gus is playing, his goal is just to race to the face. So I think what Gus's strategy has to be is to use the mana very efficiently and just try to put out as much damage as he can.
So a Slam Execute easily deals with this 6/5 charge on the board. Although, filling up his hand, we see that the Divine Favor is going to work against XXX in this case.
Yeah, absolutely. The Divine Favor is a really great tool for Gus in this matchup.
So does XXX know that he's up against the Divine Favor? If he's watching the stream with a delay, he should have seen the end of Gus versus China Rules and could know exactly what he's up against.
Yeah, I think that attack by XXX is pretty interesting. I think it was probably I think he's probably trying to stay to execute for maybe a Tyrion or a bigger threat later, but I don't think there's any in Gus's deck. So I think taking that 6 damage was probably not worth saving that execute, knowing the type of deck that Gus is running.
So right now, it looks like Gus is just kind of on the back foot right now. He really doesn't have a whole lot to work with. He needs to put out the Frothing Berserker before it gets too big, but he's going to go face. He's going straight for the win. He's calculated the damage he has, and he thinks using Divine Favor to draw next round, he can find what he needs.
Yeah, I think it was... I'm not sure if I agree with going face with that... going face with the True Silver. Frothing Berserker gets out of hand so fast. He is playing the face deck. I think there was definitely a trade-off to be made, as the game is all about trade-offs. This could come back to seriously hurt him. Because especially now that he has that huge combo in hand, but he can't really use it because those knives may...
Yeah, right now Knife Juggler is not the card to play. Wow, with 4 cards, the Divine Favor is not doing him any good anymore. It looks like we might start seeing a swing towards XXX's favor. Gus is undefeated so far, I should mention.
Yeah, absolutely. He has to drop this single game, you're correct. But I think he's in a really bad situation where I think he's got to hope the juggler lets him, and he's able to... If one juggler hits a 7-3, or if enough hit face, he may be able to clear or just under enough damage with the Argent Horse Rider to kind of pull off the victory here.
Very true, very true. So this game definitely slowed down a little bit. From the fast, heavy pace and Gus controlling it. This is kind of where both players are going to step back and reevaluate what they're going to do. Obviously, XXX wants to keep those 2 Frothing Berserkers alive. Ooh, now this is quite a risky play.
That was a mistake.
If it's able to kill the Frothing Berserker, that would be incredible stuff for RD for Gus. But no, he's going to be one short. Now he's going to put a ton of damage into the board.
Oh, the final hit from the Silverhand Recruit coming out with Hero Power.
I forgot about that final
Just beautiful. That is huge.
That was 10 damage saved there. That's incredible.
So at this point, what does he do with his Frothing Berserker? Does he just go full ham?
I think you have to go face with it.
Yeah, because you're going to gain up a bunch of damage coming from those Silverhand Recruits. Although, is that enough to clear it off? Yeah, if he uses face or that charge, he can definitely take care of the Frothing Berserker. Full board clear here for Gus, but that doesn't put him in a position to move forward.
I think if you're Gus here, I think you play the Abusive Sergeant and then the Divine Favor and see if you can find out a way to get lethal here.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Looks like he's thinking the same thing.
I think the trade-off for Gus here comes, do you want to trade all 4 of those guys into the trade 3 of your 1/1s into the monkey, knowing that there's the whirlwind effects ahead, or do you just run the 2/1?
I think I would have put out the Abusive Sergeant, given the +2, done the Divine Favor, seen what I'd drawn, and then decided what to clear from that.
I think that play was a little mistake. I think you should have used the Abusive Sergeant on the 1/1 and then traded it into... Wait, you actually missed lethal?
I was just calculating that. I don't think he did.
But unfortunately, now I think you should have. I think you should have hit the. I think you should have the Abusive Sergeant on the Silverhand Recruit, then traded it and gone.
Oh, there's lethal! Wow.
Oh, he does.
Off the top deck. That'll be game number 2 for Gus. Gus continues undefeated in this tournament.
That's crazy.
I'm going to step away from the mic for a second. Please introduce the players and start the opening speech for the next round.
Okay. Well played, Gus. You have picked up your 2nd victory in Special Time.
versus Medivh.
We just see now Gus running that Reno Warlock that we saw him play last round with XXX on what appears to be a Temple Mage. Now, in this matchup, I think the Temple Mage has pretty clear advantage. I don't think Gus's Warlock is just going to be able to put up enough beef onto the board in the early game without. He might be able to if he gets that MK boss draw, but I think he's definitely going to need some of those early drops that he has in his deck. But unfortunately, with the Reno deck, obviously you don't have as much consistency to those early drops. So I think he's going to have to get really lucky, which he's been getting this whole tournament, to find those to really keep up with the Temple Mage deck. Unfortunately, he doesn't find them. He's got the Shadow Flame, the Lotheb, and the Siphon Soul, all really late game reactive cards, and so we might see XXX able to snowball out of control before Gus can do anything about it. With that Twilight Drake, though, a really good card in the repertoire of Gus. Unfortunately for XXX, though, there is no spells in his hands, so there's no way to buff up that 1/3, so that isn't going to allow Gus to just have a little bit of time to, sit back and measure his options. But now we could see, like a slight misplay on the side of XXX. I think it would have been better to play the Sorcerer's Apprentice and then the Arcane Intellect to be able to draw more cards and use his mana efficiently and have a bigger forward threat. So that slight, maybe, misplay, maybe just decision from the side of XXX costed him 1 damage now, but, obviously could save him a card later in the case of a board wipe, like that, either the Demon Wrath or the Hellfire that you see in his hand.
Alright, I'm back. It looks like we're looking at a mid-range mage here, is that correct?
It appears to be a Temple Mage versus the Sereno Warlock here.
Water Elemental's not something you see in mages terribly often anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. This has actually a lot of worth to it. There is going to be a lot of very high health targets that Gus is going to be able to put out of the water much of it just freeze.
So controlling the board is the name of the game. He's not up against a Warlock that he's going to need to worry about keeping enough damage in hand like he would if he were a Freeze Mage. Now remember, we saw a Jiraxis in this Warlock earlier.
I see.
Yep, so now I think that Lotheb here is pretty good as that denies that Hellfire play that could have been available to Gus had he raided into the Watermental and Hellfire there.
True. So what's his follow-up play here? Does he start taunting? Does he look to Lotheb versus Lotheb? That's kind of a pretty standard play.
Yeah, I think it's good too. I think this is honestly, I wouldn't say it's a bad play, but it just is a different play than I think I would have made, as it's not very mana efficient. But that does he was able to do the meter, which is good, and he does have that 2 board now that he might be able to keep, though it does look like it is going to get taken out by Flame.
It was a very safe play, that's for sure.
Absolutely, but unfortunately that safe play has now left him a little bit behind on the board, but he's going to be able to catch up with that Hellfire, but unfortunately, after his Hellfire, he still has no follow-up, because his deck has such a high mana curve.
Now, you remember when he was playing in the last match, he was down to 1 hit point before he turned the game around. It looks like Hellfire's his only play at this point. Does he tap afterwards?
I think you do tap, because you need to start drawing and answer drawing pressure, but unfortunately for him, actually the good thing about the Hellfire is that taking out the Sorcerer's Apprentice was completely irrelevant, because now that means that XXX cannot Antonidas and then Arcane Missiles next turn into the game.
Very true. Both players have an empty board to work with right now. Antonidas, he could drop it, but it's just going to get Siphon Soul. Dropping a Hero Power Pass on turn 7, not an ideal play. This gives the Warlock a chance to start putting threats back on the board. He can Dr. 7, which seems like the obvious answer, but he might start fishing for heals.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think the interesting play that XXX made, I think I might have even Frostbolt to the face here, as that's going to that would put him into a double Fireball range, much cheaper here. Because now, even if he plays Antonidas, he'd have to follow it up with those Arcane Missiles, which could backfire a lot. It's not even an interesting place where he can't just try to hog wild and go him with face damage here.
Dr. Balance picked up for XXX. Is he going to find a good opportunity to play that?
Absolutely. Well, I think I do agree that his plays are kind of awkward, and that actually this some free protector is a huge pickup from Gus. As he's gonna be able to taunt up that Dr. Boom and maybe even like a Lothab or a two guard if he chooses. And it was unfortunate for him that Boombot did not hit very hard. It did the 1 damage to the Asian deck, but we are seeing a situation now where XXX is going to be able to hit that second fireball from Antonitis and that Frostbolt. So if Gus doesn't pick up any healing soon, then he's going to lose this game.
Lothab to control, optimal time to play, and defense. Not that there's a whole lot of charge minions going on right now, but this definitely makes for a strong board for Gus. Having this heal control-based Warlock, I think being low hit points really doesn't matter to him that much, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a Molten Giant appear somewhere.
Absolutely, and the nice thing about the play by Gus is even though he does not know it, XXX did have Antonitis in hand, and that does really screw with him. Because now he's not able to generate a fireball that would give him the next turn lethal. So that is going to delay lethal 1 turn, and that actually might give the game to Gus. Because right now, it doesn't appear that if XXX, unless he fireballs the Dr. Boom, I think XXX is going to have lethal. Let's see, this is 7, 12, 14, 16. Yeah,
he's got 21 damage with the Doom Guard.
Oh, I didn't think it was possible on the Dark Show.
That slows him down a bit, but I mean, again, we're a Frostbolt ping on turn 9. I mean, he's just not getting the plays he needs. He really needs some good board clear here. And that's just so much damage to take right now.
XXX was 1 turn away from lethal. I think if he had decided to on turn 8 instead of playing defensively, if he had Antonitis, and then played Yucky Missile instead of pinging, he would have already been over by this point in time.
Game called. Gus takes his second undefeated run. This looks like Gus's tournament to lose. Who's going to stop him?
Yeah, I think the play here is that XXX waited too long and gave Gus too much time to build up his cards. And in the deck, Temple Blade is obviously faster than that Reno Lock was by a bit. I think he really should have gone to the aggressive fight, but by not going to that, he just gave Gus way too much time to build his resources and build his answers and get enough mana for that Mal'Ganis and that slow play.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're gonna be looking for another match. Maybe we can pick up a match with someone else. It looks like
they still have one more.
It looks like David Zilgaria and Tenenet Fire might be available. We've shown a lot of matches from Gus. Let's see if we can pick up some other players.
Is that the third game? That's crazy.
Well, all right then.
Oh no, yeah, we did see off the deck. I forgot about game 1.
Alright, I'm gonna see if I can pick up some of the other... Oh, I'm gonna mute the stream.
Okay, so we are here in a game between what looks like to be combo druid and some sort of paladin. Maybe mid-range more version, I guess.
I'm messing with the overlay. If you just want to go ahead and keep going.
Absolutely. So we do see this Gadsden Jouster here from David Zagula. So it looks like he's running maybe a more top-heavy paladin deck here, but I really can't really decipher what his deck is about. As we do see a lot of people on board and this abusive sergeant. So there's a lot of interesting mixes here. It looks like he doesn't really have a good way to take out this Druid of the Claw. That's not kind of awkward. He's gonna have to trade 2 minions in back. And unfortunately for him, he does have Consecration in hand, so he's got no way to deal with that Shade of Noxtramas. And so that could become a huge problem late game. And Tenafire is going to get another Druid of the Claw. That again is going to be hard for David to deal with, and you might have to use an equality on this. And we already see actually Tenafire unleash his Shade of Noxtramas and just go in face with that 3 damage points.
Do we know if this is the first match?
I'm not quite sure. But what's interesting about this game is now we do see that equality could, that is a play I do recommend, and we could see that being able to use to clear the board, and then he could set up things of his own with maybe another knight there to have more pressure there going into the face of Tenafire.
Alright, so I just got confirmed this is the first match.
Okay, cool.
So we're getting right in on it. That's actually pretty good. I need to change the portrait for Tenafire because Sailor Moon is reserved by Gus. So not a whole lot of answers for the Druid right now. He needs to pick up something like a his Druid of the Claw, just to.
He already has used both of them actually.
Oh, has he? Okay, so
yes.
I'm a little late to the show.
Get in there, fight!
And fortunately enough for David Zaluga, he does have that answer to that Shredder in the form of the Abuse Sergeant. I think here this is the point in time where Blessing of Kings or a Loaf that would be a good response to this hanging out of evil. And you could use the Blessing of Kings to trade them to there and still have a pretty healthy spider on board. And I think really his goal has to be to minimize damage. As he's getting pretty close to that 14 amount, this is the basically lethal playing against the Druid.
Yep, so a commanding lead, especially on the board, coming from the Paladin, answered by Dr. Balance. The Blessing of Kings, obviously the Big Game Hunter's a perfect answer for Dr. Balance.
But now he does also have that Mind Control tech, so if he plays that first, he might not even need the Big Game Hunter, as he could pick up Dr. Boom from that.
That would be huge. And of course he gets
it. He does get it, of course. Oh no, this is a disaster zone.
Well, that is a very big swing, and that's just what Hearthstone is anymore. Just huge plays and huge swings. It always makes the game interesting to watch, for sure.
That was a really weird trade. I don't know why he did that. I guess I can't really figure out what the trade was about. He just wasted damage into a Hanging Out of Evil. I don't know. He hit it with 3 damage instead of just 2 that he needed. But,
Savage Roar Swipe having the potential to clear the board right now, though not what you wanted to use your Savage Roar on, because you've got your opponent down so close. He definitely wanted to see the Force of Nature for the end of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. If he holds on to his if he holds on to Savage Roar and is able to pick up Force Nature next turn, that would be lethal if those Boombots do go face.
But he's facing down lethal himself right now. Blessing of Kings does put enough damage on to David's hand to clear him out.
Absolutely. So I do think this Savage Roar is probably the best option here. I'm not so certain about the Acolyte thing, and I think the swipe obviously would have been better because that would have been a full board save. But depending on how these bots go, he can get lucky. But he's okay. Go face with that one. Well, so he decided halfway through trading just to go crazy, hem wild, and go face.
As we were saying earlier, you can't play to keep yourself alive always. You got to play to win sometimes, and I think that's what he's doing. I think he knows that if he doesn't get good draws here in the next round, which is probably all he has left, he's going to.
No! That's going to be lethal.
That is going to be lethal. Wow. So, is there anything that David can do at this point?
No, that unlucky Boombot going face for so much damage actually is going to end the game.
He's going to sneak this game out from behind. Very impressive.
That's pretty crazy. That is the RNG crazy fun-based game of Hearthstone for you. So much skill, so much balance.
I wish I had a epic sex guy to put on the screen right now. So one game goes to Tenet Fire.
Yeah, absolutely well played by him. He was able to do those druid things with so much. You never notice how much damage druids put out, and then you look up and you're all of a sudden at 3 health.
Yeah, absolutely. And you expect to lose the game around 15 hit points to the ultimate combo, but then something like 2 boombots to the face for 7 damage, and you're suddenly down the barrel.
Yeah, it is just so unfortunate for David Zagula. He would have won that game for sure if the boombot had just hit face for 2 damage less. Or it's not going to face at all. Because he had that 11-11 Dr. Boom staring down the face of Fire. And that really shows how much those little tiny dice rolls can really impact the game.
Absolutely. So let's see what we're going to come up against next.
This also is interesting though. This is the semi-final game, so whoever wins this game is going to go to the finals.
I will fight.
And now I believe they're up against Gus there in the finals. Oh no, Gus is playing. Gus will be playing a match soon to see who goes to the finals, and perhaps we can cast that one as well.
Mikey, look, it appears that the game between Jay Smitty and Penny the PPY is only one game in, so it's about rowing on the same pace as this game.
So full Face Hunter coming out here for Fire. That'll be very interesting against this. Appears to be aggro Paladin.
Yeah, I do actually. I do think that Tent Fire has a little bit of the advantage here. We did see that there wasn't a whole lot of tools to stop the aggression of the Druid. So what is he really going to be able to put up to stop the aggression of a Face Hunter?
I don't think he has any taunts. He probably isn't running enough consecrates to handle this, and I've only seen the one heal out of him so far. Does the game go late enough to be able to drop Lay on Hands? And even if it does, will you be gaining enough hit points to keep yourself alive?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's really going to need to. It is going to matter on whether he hits that late game enough. He is going to be able to hit turn 8. If he is, that might be enough to keep him in, especially now that he's got those True Silvers to try to come up and give him a hit. But looks like we're seeing that the Pilot is trying to come out, so maybe it's a more mid-rangey version for 10 higher, so there still might be hope for David Zagula.
Yeah, keeping those threats on the board in such an aggressive deck is very essential to winning this match.
Absolutely. So here we can either see, I think, the True Silver or the Knife Juggler Iron Beak Gallant could also be in play. I think the True Silver is probably a little bit stronger. It's just going to stop more of that aggression and get you those skills back a bit. So we're only taking 2 damage, which can be enough to stifle. You really just need to get board control, especially in this match.
So let's do a little bit of analyzing on this Gadgetzan Jouster we just saw. You got to have high value threats in order for that to get the boost it needs. So this isn't going to be a complete aggro deck. Maybe mid to late game Paladin Tyrion even. I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, we actually saw it in the very beginning, I think, while you're still setting things up in the last game, unactivated. And so, it is interesting to me, this deck seems to be very tech-based. Honestly, the Gadgetzan Jouster is going to hit against a deck like this, unless it maybe gets unlucky and gets into a Savannah High main. But there's a pretty good chance that his curve is probably better than the Face Hunters. But this really is a good play here. I think he's got to kill, he's obviously got to kill the, what is this? I don't remember the name, Money Berserker. And I think the Owl is actually the right play against the Hunter Creeper just to stop that aggression and try to get some percentage of the board.
So he's kind of all over the board here on his tech cards. That Kazan Mystic and the Gadgetzan Jouster in the same hand, it seems like a ladder hand, something that you can just come up against whatever and hope for the best. Turn up a mini bot versus a juggler, no boost.
Oh, but that loss on the roll was so night and day because when you really need, and I think it's less even for the attack and more for the health. They just use that 1 extra health point on that Gadgetzan Jouster to be able to trade more hits.
Yeah, and at this point you really need everything you can. Against Face Hunter, I would almost expect to win every joust. That was just rather unfortunate that he picked it up. Though it's probably not going to be too big of a difference in the long term.
Interesting enough, we did see a little bit of a misplay from Ten of Fire, as he did miss out on having one little doggy as he killed the Night Jungle before he unleashed the Hounds. One thing to note though too is there's obviously an option he had. We can got 2 more juggles if he had killed off the spider, the Hunter Creeper, but I think it was probably best to hold on to that in case of concentration.
Yeah, so missing the 1 hound along with the 1 juggle that would have gone with it is fairly big. So he can trade his... Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's a lot of damage.
Those were the 2 best combinations of animal commands he could have gotten.
So keeping his spider... Keeping his spider, not making the trade to get the extra juggles, he's worried about a consecrate coming down.
But I think though at this point, I would think you would trade in the spiders because if David Zagula was holding onto the consecrate, I think he already would have used it. And he could have gotten more damage out of those spiders with the Leok up.
Is that lethal? If he silences the Belcher? We're looking at 6, 9... No, he doesn't have lethal yet.
Not quite. If that explosive trap was instead a Pokemon that would be lethal or even a quick shot. But interesting enough, it's actually the worst card. He doesn't realize that the worst card he can play right now is that explosive trap, as it is going to prevent a ton of damage. As is going to be stolen by the Kazon Mystic. But I think to stay alive, he still has to play the Lay on Hands.
Yeah, and the Lay on Hands is only going to delay the inevitable. If he had used the spider to take out the owl, he might have gotten 2 juggles to the dome. 25%.
Correct. He did miss a chance, quote unquote, at lethal.
So
but
very...
enough,
Oh, sorry,
there may be a chance for David to stabilize after he uses his Lay on Hands and a Kazon Mystic.
That's true, I did not consider that. Kazon Mystic, the 2 damage would almost clear his opponent's hand, which would be very helpful. But he has to stay alive long enough, and it looks like he's probably going to have enough.
Nope, that is going to be lethal with the pew-pew of the gun. And we are going to see goodbye to David Zagula's second round.
A very commanding win from Face Hunter. I'd say if any of the decks that we've seen out of David so far, that was the one to beat Face Hunter. His draws just weren't in line.
Yeah, he got just a little unlucky with, obviously, the way that the Animal Companion rolls went. They went in the best favor possible for Tenant Fire, as he was able to put out so much damage, as he already had a ton of names on the board, and Leok was able to buff all those names, and then he got Huffer on top of that, which is 5 damage to him.
So we've been very critical of the players' hands so far. We don't know the skill range of each player. We don't know where they usually rank in the ladder per season, and which is one of the reasons I like casting these community-based tournaments, because you can see anything. I wouldn't be surprised if we ended up seeing a Magnum Rager in somebody's hand. That would be fantastic.
Is this a secret mage?
I don't know yet. The Grand Crusader is an interesting card for David. Obviously the stream can't see that at the moment, but we could see anything right now. I'm guessing we're going to see Oil Rogue, a lot of minions to put out damage quick and to keep threats on the board.
It's really just maybe a more aggro version of this maybe a more aggro version of this road deck. We do see that Flame Lance, interesting enough, in the hand of David Zagula, which I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure how much I like that card, but maybe he's just I guess he's just a very, 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 very controlling style of mage that we're seeing from David Zagula here.
Yeah, I think David has brought his, based on the Kazan and the Gadgetzin Jouster from the last match, I think David has brought his laddery decks to this tournament, with the hope to just kind of keep it broad enough to handle anything that's thrown at him. Whereas usually when you go up against tournaments like this, you kind of expect to see an aggro or a secret paladin, or a complete aggro lock along with a control warrior. So people tend to prepare specifically for tournament style combat.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think David Zagula is trying to run kind of a surprise factor where he's trying to create his own decks so that his opponents don't have as much insight into his style. So they might try to assume one thing and then pop, goes out with a, some sort of undercutted, stealthy, sneaky tactic to try to win him.
So at this point, the only thing he can really do is Frostbolt to clear the board. Trade even. It's not the best play, but what's the other option? Tempo big game?
I don't know the rest of the deck of David Zagula or what his goals is, but I actually might have even dropped the Acolyte of Pain and saved that Frostbolt for a higher value target.
But the Acolyte, you save yourself 2 damage essentially, but you only get one card draw out of it.
That's also true. So I mean, I think there's obviously options that he had. And obviously he had the flame lens, so made it not matter. But if he didn't have a response to that powder shredder, and he just used the frostbolt on the 3-0 metal as well. So.
Okay, so here's our answer for the rogue deck. We're looking at a Raptor Oil deck. Everything he's pretty much put out so far has a Death Rattle and spawns generally another minion. And he's with the oh no, that came out of a Pilot Shredder, didn't it? But still, definitely a Raptor deck. Oil, if anything. I mean, that's just kind of your endgame win.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wonder if he's going to try to run that strategy where you load up with a lot of Raptors with Brand. We haven't seen a Brand, obviously, so we don't know what his deck entails. That could be interesting development.
It would be kind of fun to see Baron. Why am I so blanking on names? 1/7 times 2 Death Rattles. To see that drop down with all these Death Rattles on the board would just be hilarious.
Absolutely. And actually, one thing I think is interesting, in this tournament, we've seen a ton of these acidic swampies in the hands of the players. I think that's a card that I don't like to see that as a player.
You're cutting out there. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, we've seen acidic swampies in the hands of a lot of these players. And a card that we expect to see as much as you have.
So are we seeing these oozes because it's kind of the new meta, or these players don't have Harrison Jones?
You know, obviously Harrison Jones is a little bit slower than Six Swampers, and if you're trying to run a fatigue deck, I guess Six Swampers is technically better than Harrison. Maybe players are just expecting their opponents to be running more aggressive weapons, so they think they need that Swampers earlier.
I do like the Swamp Ooze because in these aggressive decks, you can play the Swamp Ooze earlier just as a threat to get early control of the board. Whereas Harrison Jones, when you're getting to that point in the game, a 5/4 really isn't that significant.
Yeah, so I think there was definitely merit, and I think, unfortunately for David Ziegler, I think Tempfire really has such a strong board position, and he just used that Blizzard just to make a ton more spiders. And he's going to be staring down lethal next turn, and he just really have a way in his hand to deal with it. We're going to see a miracle come out, maybe from this Grand Crusader, or something else from David Ziegler.
Quick shout out to the chat. We've got one guy spamming the standard Hearthstone cancer, and I just absolutely love it. Thanks, Darkhaven.
You are absolutely. And I think this was the miracle that David Ziegler needed. And this will keep him in the game for a little bit longer, but the Dr. 7 from Tempfire is going to definitely be an issue.
So another quick sweep. We've yet to cast a game that is back and forth. I really don't see what he can do to come back at this point unless he picks up a clutch Flame Strike with a Reno.
Definitely. So he's going to have an answer, though, to that Dr. Boom in the form of either Big M Hunter or Flame whatever he chooses to use. And we actually are going to see Brand come down instead of the Dr. Boom. That's interesting. I guess he really wants those double boom bots.
Anti-Keelbot just delaying the inevitable at this point.
Must be a little behind because I haven't seen that in this one yet. Yeah, okay, now I do see the anti-Keelbot hand. And now, oh, the frost over there was huge.
Yeah, but the Frost Nova clear, I mean, what's he got to go with it? Let's say he's got a Doomsayer somewhere. That just makes sure that the boombots go face.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the Dr. Boom, that's gonna. I mean, it's gonna drop 4 of those boombots. I think that might be too much for David.
Disguised toast.
Disguised toast. Full ham. Way to go. The extra boombots. I mean, that's guaranteed lethal at this point, I'd say, unless it rolls a perfect 1/1 for or 1 for each of the boombots. The chances of it not doing that are so slim. Now, with the board full and frozen, and missing a weapon, and Loatheb, pretty much whatever he picks up, he's not going to be able to use. And there I go, putting my foot in my mouth. Thank you, Hearthstone. Bride, did I lose you?
Yeah, I gotta keep you out of the game for some reason, so I'm gonna come back in just a second.
Okay, well, we still have a full board here and 28 health. David here is looking down the barrel of the gun. He hasn't picked up any options. The Earthen Ring Farseer is only going to get him up to 6 health, which is still lethal on board. A ping on the Alkalite to pray, but even if he picks up Reno, it's not enough to keep him in the game. He draws a Water Elemental. Obviously the big game hunter to the Dr. Boom, but still staring down lethal on the board.
Yeah, and unfortunately, he's going to end to his bonus tournament, as he just doesn't have enough to stop the impressive power of the Death Battle Rogue.
And a concede, David drops out of the game. Tenentive Fire wins 3-0.
And so we are going to see him go on to the finals of this tournament against the winner of...
Let's take a quick look at the brackets right now.
We're still waiting on the of the semifinal game to even get decided who's going to be in there yet.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and see if we can jump into Kenneth and Jay Smitty's game. I'm going to meet the chat. Alright, so we're here catching the end of Jay Smitty's 738's game versus Kennedy. This is for the semifinals up against Gus. Jay Smitty's leading 2-0, and he has the combo in hand. He just needs to reduce his opponent down to enough hit points to finish the game. His opponent's been playing a Reno lock and kind of all over the board. He does have the Steed down, and he does have Thorazine, which he's been getting ticks off of, which is actually pretty nice. Let's see if we can get Kent's hand in this game. It doesn't look like I can observe Kenneth, so oh well, we won't be able to get his hand, but it's still a pretty solid game at this point. As long as he can keep J Smitty from getting too much down on the board, he'll be able to control the win. Down to 10 hit points, J Smitty might be looking up against his first defeat, and maybe a chance at a comeback for Kenneth. But all he really needs to do is pick up, let's see, an Innervate would get him to 22 damage, not enough. Sylvanas continuing to control that board. J Smitty just doesn't have any threats right now, and he's about to go down. No, he's already, attack's already gone off. Another ping off of the Emperor Thorazane.
It actually appears that Kenneth is up 2-0, not J Smitty.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
I've got my score wrong here. Sapcasters, rank 26. And I guess we're about to see another 3-0 then, aren't we?
Unfortunately, we are. Never fun. Never lucky to be today.
But
I'm actually a little behind right now.
I mean, we've seen
Sapcasters, yeah. So.
we've seen dominating sweeps here, so hopefully with these players who have all gone 3-0 at this point, we'll be able to see some back and forth games. Otherwise, someone's going to go down in a horrible blaze, and the other one's going to continue on his 3-0 sweep.
So many
Yeah, I am really excited
possibilities.
Between the game of whoever wins this and Penance Fires. We've seen Gus put up, a very good performance this entire tournament. We obviously saw Penance Fire do really well, and it looks like J Smitty is already doing really well in this game as well.
So top decking here, J Smitty is just at the end of his rope. Kenneth can start tapping, look for more damage, or he can just slowly start pinging. That's going to be a damn near impossible target to deal with. I don't even know what Smitty can draw at this point. Reno to slow everything down, and that's not going to be enough. That'll be the end of this game. Kenneth is going to take the series 3-0 and move on to the semifinals against Gus. Alright, and we're back.
Now, interestingly enough, between the game of Kenneth's Control Warrior and Gus's aggressive Paladin, we do see that Surfing Riddle come out that we did not see in the previous games with him.
True.
Unfortunately, Kenneth, I think, has the spectate turned off, and we can't view his hand right now.
Oh, alright, so I'm going to have to switch which one we're spectating here.
Okay, I got it. We're good.
Alright, well, here, let me do this real quick. Alright, just go ahead and continue casting while I set this up.
Alright, so as you can see, Kenneth's hand is Armor Smith, Fire War Axe, Execute, Shield Slam, Coin, and another Armor Smith. And so he's going to coin at the Armor Smith, which is a really good response to Sorcerer and Middleton, as the Armor Smith can really just farm armor off Sorcerer and Middleton as much as he wants without there being a real big threat of Sorcerer and Middleton doing too much damage. And the Hunch Cupid again is coming out, and that's going to be able to show a really, really aggressive start from Gus. But unfortunately, I think if he leads into that turn for Mushroom battle, that there might be something in Kenneth's hand to go with that, like a Whirlwind, or maybe even a really team of a lot of these warriors here. Now, I think the correct play here is probably to kill the Haunted Creeper to set up for maybe for some more armor that you can get later, or some more board clears later. As you can obviously kill the 1-3 with the 1 and next turn, and you can begin to pick up those spiders using the upper side.
Yeah, so pretty slow start so far. Not terribly exciting, but I think this is going to be one of the best matches that we've cast because we've got 2 undefeated players moving into the semifinals.
Yeah, absolutely, and the winner of this is going to face another undefeated member in the form of Kenneth Fire. And we are really going to see that Kenneth is just going to start out building a ton of armor, which is going to be hard for the aggressive deck of Gus to go through.
Oh, it looks like Kenny did lose a single match in his opening, in the opening round against Bear Grylls. Tenetfire actually has lost several matches in his first and second rounds, but in the semifinals went completely undefeated. So this round showing a lot of small minis on the board, no one really getting a big foothold yet, which is very unfortunate for the Paladin because he needs to be getting that damage on early. But we're seeing right now that the Warrior does not have any threats to put down.
Definitely, though, the longer the stream goes on, the more it benefits Kenneth.
And hopefully we'll see some really good back and forth. I'd actually like to see this go to match point, or decider match on the 5th round.
Yep, so that Shield Walk is actually going to do a lot of work in just building up that armor buffer that Gus really needs to hold. I'm sorry, that Kenneth really needs to hold if he's going to try to win the game against this deck that's going to get increasingly aggressive. As we are seeing 2 Blessings hands and an Abuse Sergeant.
Oh, I just realized I actually have the names and the portrait backwards. So if you would keep going, please.
One interesting thing is we do see that Dr. Boom is going to be in the hand of Kenneth. So if it does make it to turn 7 and Dr. Boom comes down, Gus is running really low on cards. And so he probably won't have an option with Dr. Boom. And Dr. Boom just might be able to walk in lethal over a 4-turn period. And obviously we're going to see that Kenneth has a lot of really good tools for the late of the game. He's got the Execute in hand, that Shield Slam in hand, that Shield Maiden for even more armor, that Brawl in hand, and he's just going to unload all of it. He's going to Shield Slam the 2-1, Execute the 5-2, making sure the board is super clear so that when Shield Maiden comes down next, he can kill whatever's on the board, and then that's going to leave room for Dr. Boom the next turn. And unfortunately, that Blessing of Might picked up is not going to be really impactful, but that Knife Juggler is a much better pickup, and we're going to get a little bit of value as he's going to juggle these Sergeant.
Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate it. So, we're getting a lot of armor from our Control Warrior, and the threats are building up from Gus, but he's not putting any new ones down. He's also running dead dry. He really needs to get himself that Divine Favor to replenish his hand, or at least something to start putting cards in his hand. He's going to find himself running out of steam against this Warrior's cards who keep getting bigger and bigger, especially with a Dr. Boom followed by an Alex Strauss on turn 9.
Yeah, we do see that Dr. Balance picked up and played by Kenneth. That's going to rival the that will trade with the buffed Knife Juggler, and that's going to be unfortunate for Gus, as he did have to use 2 cards to make that Knife Juggler that big.
Kansas is going to be able to trade it with one card and still have the super bots left over.
So based on the hand I see right now, the only thing I think that could keep Gus in this game effectively would be an equality to go along with that Consecrate. He's got some good card draw coming out of having switched his hero power into Warlocks, but like I said, that steam's going to start really running out.
And you guys get really lucky here with these robots and have them. That's actually, I think, the best option for those robots to go, because that made it so that you didn't get any. You got to kill that the 7 tech guy anyways, and so those robots essentially didn't really do any damage, but they were just walked right into it. And that second Consecration actually is going to be able to keep Gus into this video game.
Yup, but Alex Straws is a threat he cannot deal with this at this point.
Yeah, so we're going to see him either pick up a full ton of damage and a burst to be able to finish the game out, or else shows that we'll just simply kill him over a 3-turn period.
Oh, a Gromosh to back it up. He could be facing down the barrel at this point. Interestingly enough, he opens with the Gromosh. He might be saving the Alexstrasza to heal himself.
Yeah, that is correct. He may be expecting some burst out of Gus. And we are going to see a little bit here. He's going to pick up that Argent Horse Rider. I think the Alexstrasza, I think, might have been a little bit too, too passive. As if he played Alexstrasza last turn, he would have lethal this turn with the Alexstrasza and the Gromosh being able to hit full. I guess this has been a little bit off. And so I think we actually made the best pick of this game.
He would have been just a little bit off. Alexstrasza is going to keep him alive, but what does he do as far as cleaning the board? I don't think that Brawl is the right choice.
Absolutely not, because I mean his board is much more high value than Gus's at that point.
He might be considering popping that Creeper and using the Brawl and hoping with a 50-50 that just a 1-1 stays on the board.
Yeah, or even though, or I guess his best option would obviously be if the Gromash stayed alive.
Well, obviously, but the chances are kind of slim at this point. 30%, I'd say a 30% chance of putting a 1-1 minion on the board is better than, or a 30% chance, a 50% chance of leaving a 1-1 on the board is much better than a 30% chance of keeping your throne on the board.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of different options to do here. But now we do see that Gromash is activated, but I think this is going to be so much damage, and that sounds can just come out on that Gromash to nullify the extreme meta zone. So we're going to see a fairly, I would say not weak, but non-impactful or non-threatening board from Kenneth considering the current life state of Gus, and we are going to see, though, Kenneth facing down lethal this next turn.
A lot of damage coming out from Gus. It looks like Kenneth... Oh, now that Baron Geddon's a pretty big draw. He opens the board up for a nice clear and leaves a lot of damage for himself.
Definitely, that Baron Geddon pickup was so important, and that might actually even win him the game on its own.
But 2 cards, Gus has the chance to pick up what he needs to do 6 damage, which isn't a whole lot considering. Looks like he gets himself a Cog Hammer, that's 4 more damage. Oh, he does not have the minions to play, and I believe that will be the first game that Gus has lost in this tournament.
Man, that was so close.
Very exciting match.
That he was able to come that close and just... I mean, the game was such a good back and forth.
Very exciting, very exciting. This is what I was hoping to see come the semifinals and finals of this tournament. Congratulations to Kenneth for his win over Gus.
Yeah, absolutely well played by both sides, but you know, obviously we've seen the strength of Gus's Paladin deck there, and I don't really think it's going to struggle to pick up a win in the future. I think the Control Warrior was one of the worst matches for an aggressive deck like that, and it's still almost won.
Yeah, correct. Let's see what we've got coming out for Kenneth. Now, we didn't have the chance to cast a whole lot of Kenneth's games earlier, so we don't really know what he's working with, but we're very familiar with Gus's hand.
I'm actually starting to see a funny little reversal here, as it's now Kenneth on the Paladin, but it looks like it's much slower. More like a Control Paladin, but now we see Gus on the Control Warrior.
So we're going through the mulligan phase right now. Kenneth has a pretty solid hand to start with, and a Muster for Battle to back that up. Looks like Gus is looking at opening with a Shield Maiden and a Bash, so he can control the board and get some card draw out of that Alkalite. I think this is going to be a pretty interesting game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think unfortunately for Kenneth in the late game, Control Warrior just beats all other types of control decks.
But he does have to get to the end game.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think we saw. I think this is just straight up control. I don't think we ended up seeing Kitchen out of Gus. I think this is exactly what we saw Elise in, right?
I believe you are correct on that. Yeah, the Frothing Berserker and Patron deck was one of the earlier players we were up against. It was either XXX or China Rules. I think it was China Rules.
Interestingly enough, we see a Redemption in the hand of Canada, so maybe this could be a deck that runs some serious challenger, you think?
Redemption extremely powerful on the the shielded mini-bot, especially with a taunt and another shield on top of it. That's got to be one of the most obnoxious things to see.
Shielded mini-bot, more like shielded Annoyatron.
Shielded Annoyatron. Absolutely. Easily the highest value you can get for a 2-drop in this game.
I mean, yeah, it's going to soak up... it got value out of one shield, now has another shield and taunt. And then if it comes back to life with another shield, it'll still be another, like, basically 2 more damage it's going to have to take before it dies.
So Piloted Shredder keeping his control of the board very solid. I think that the Warrior's going to have to start drawing some of his higher value minions to regain control of his board, or maybe drop that Elise and hope for the best. But once the Goreheld comes out, assuming he has the hit points to work with, he'll gain control of the board very quickly.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you drop Elise or do you try to bash the Piloted Shredder?
I think drawing was the right choice.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's gonna coin out, I guess, bash, and then the Unstable Ghoul or the Fiery Wind Axe, one of the two.
Depends on what comes off the Shredder. Oh, not good at all, considering 3 of his 4 cards are in fact spells.
It is so unfortunate for Gus.
Tyrion, that's a pretty solid card. Not a whole lot of answers in a Warrior's hand for Tyrion.
Kenneth, do you save the Redemption for Tyrion though? I mean, maybe he's got another one in deck that he's counting as wrong.
That would be ideal, but I think at this point Gus knows what that is.
Reporting for duty.
Yeah, I guess it's possible.
I mean, the only thing it could be at this point would be, the only other thing it could be at this point would be, the laser trap, killing the 4th minion you play on the board.
It's a really good opportunity for him to play Sludge Butcher though. He's gonna get a whole lot of edge. He took up a lot of those 1-1s.
Absolutely obnoxious, but a good clear with his Whirlwind effect. And picking up a little armor on top of that. Very back and forth game. There's no clear winner at this point, and a Mysterious Challenger will be a nice boost.
So this is that Mysterious Challenge deck, and he's going to be able to drop that on a fairly open board.
Only 3 secrets come out from the Mysterious Challenger. What are we looking at here? We've got a Noble Sacrifice, Avenge, and a Competitive Spirit. I did not expect to see the Competitive Spirit. I expected to see another Redemption.
Yeah, unfortunately for Gus, he's not going to be able to find a way to proc his Execute onto Kenneth's Mysterious Challenger. So this Mysterious Challenger is going to live to fight another day.
What is he? I mean, the Armor Smith has a perfect chance to proc that, or he can take out that Sludge Belcher. So overall, the Mysterious Challenger completely defeated by a 1/1 Armor Smith and an Execute.
Yeah, so the Execute's going to get a lot of value here. He's going to kill that 10-6 Mysterious Challenger for him.
And Kenneth is going to be very happy to see that Execute drop, because that's going to make his Tyrion all more valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think the one thing he doesn't know is that, as we talked earlier, that SR Swamp has been very rampant in this tournament, and now it's in Gus's hand. So Gus is going to have a response for that action if he's able to kill Tyrion.
Yeah, definitely. This is going to come down to the end. We might even see this go to fatigue. This has just been a back-and-forth game. Both players been trading as they put minions down, just threats from each side, and not a whole lot of chance to go face. I think this has been my favorite game to cast so far, and I'm expecting to see more out of both of these players.
Oh no! Oh, that's so unfortunate!
He definitely needed to save that, but he does not have the information that we have for sure.
Yeah, but I feel like I feel like as a player though, you still have to be wary of the Paladin that would run Tyrion. I feel like against Paladin, you can't destroy it instead of Swampers on a 1/2 weapon.
So Gus definitely had, well, I mean, like I said earlier, we haven't had the chance to cast many of Kenneth's games, so Gus hasn't been watching. But if Kenneth has been watching the streams, he's seen the entirety of all of Gus's decks. Do you think that's possible? We really haven't seen him play significantly one way or the other, but his hands are so strong as it is that maybe he doesn't need to.
And so I think this game is really going to come down to the fact that I think playing out a 6 Swampoos on that Lights of Justice and not on the Tyrion is going to be, I think, one of the vital mistakes that defines this game. It might not matter, as Elise might end up getting up so much value in the late game that he might be able to steamroll past defenses and offensive Kenneth. But I think it's going to come down definitely in these next couple turns. Obviously, Gus has built up quite a heavy armor stash for himself, so he's done plenty of like with. But it's going to get down to the wire really close as we see that Tyrion drop. He's not going to have a good way to deal with it.
No, certainly not. Gus is finally starting to draw his higher threat minions, but it might be too little too late at this point. It is very good for him that his opponent is running out of cards and doesn't have a whole lot of draw at this point. So he could drop the Elise in a brawl and hope for the best. 60% chance, but he does give his opponent a pretty big weapon. And like you said, he wasted that Acid Swampoos earlier.
I think you do actually have to use Elise and Brawl here and hope for the best. You hope for that 2 out of 3 chance that Tyrion does not come out. But now, actually, he does see that Extra Tech go into his hand. So if he actually uses the rest of his, if he does drop his hand, there is a chance that Micro Tech could Tyrion.
Definitely. Tyrion is the threat to win the game at this point.
Yeah, so it really could go down to. I mean, we've seen Gus win a ton of his RNG rolls today, and so if Kenneth plays that Knife Juggler and that Shield Minibot, there's a 1 out of 4 chance that that Gus just straight up wins this game by taking the Tyrion.
Reporting for duty.
And let's not forget that even though the brawl could certainly go very, very well for Gus, he's looking at 15 damage to the dome. I think you're right that mind control tech is going to be big. You remember last time he picked up the Dr. Boom off of a board of 5.
Do you go for it here or do you just brawl?
That's a tough call.
Even if Tyrion comes out of the brawl, you can still kill it with the Gorehowl. And so that might be the play. Because obviously that leaves his opponent like guaranteed board clear, and also with just the weapon. And obviously, I mean, he can shield himself through the weapon, and I do think that was the right play. He wants one of the 1/1s to come out, but Kenneth has so little amount of cards in his hand, there's not much he can do to replenish. And at least it's just eventually going to be, the threat of the monkey is going to be really strong in the late game.
Definitely. So he's got the whole board to himself right now, and the Aldor Peacekeeper is going to, do very little. I don't even know if he wastes it on him at this point. Do the Noble Sacrifice, do your guy, clear the Elise, and then pray for a bigger threat at the end. Have we seen any bigger threats in Kenneth's hand? What's he carrying that's going to win this game for him?
I mean, I'm assuming if we saw the Tyrion and we saw the Mysterious Challenger, I would assume there's also a Boom in the deck of Kenneth. That might be another out for him.
Now, as we know, Dr. Boom isn't really a game winner anymore. It's more of a tool to slow down your opponent's pace and absorb some of those control spells. I mean, when's the last time you won a game because you dropped the Dr. Boom?
That is very true. Well, we did actually see the last game. I believe Kenneth won the game off of Dr. Boom against that.
Dr. Boom with the Brawn. Yeah, he had 3 boombots there in the ground. Kenneth not getting the draws he needs, but being very obnoxious by loading the board up with the dudes. If he had a Justicar Trueheart and dropped double dudes at a time, he could really start racking up those damage, because that's a very annoying set of small minions for a warrior without that many whirlwinds to deal with.
Yeah, and then we do see that Dr. Boone we were talking about, but that is going to be cleared up really easily by that whirlwind from the Deathbite and the Execute. So it might just be really kind of touch while we see that Gus still would have all that least pressure in his deck.
Well, he was able to pull the Dr. Boom out of the middle with his MC Tech last round. If he does it this round, using the Death Spite will be a clean sweep and leave a big minion on the board for him. Let's see what happens.
Absolutely. Let's see if he gets as lucky as he's been in the past. I mean, I still think you have to go for it, because right now, if you're Gus, he doesn't have a whole lot of threats in his hand, and so I think he needs to try to pull the
Not the grab he wanted, but with an armor up, Death Spike to the Dr. Boom, he can clear, or he can use that Execute. I think I might have used the Death Spite to the Dr. Boom with an armor up and shield slam, because he's not really getting a whole lot of opportunity to shield up lately.
That's true. I mean, I think obviously you will have some in the future after that Ashbringer's cleared.
At that point, we see that Kenneth, he's low on cards, out of depth, and now he's also low on life. So there's not a lot of outs, I think, there's left in Kenneth's deck. But that still has the overlooming threat of that monkey hand that's, in the last 10 cards of this deck. That's, obviously, even the monkey on its own is kind of a big threat. It is a 6 taunt. And I don't think there's probably any heals in the deck of Kenneth.
No, certainly
No,
not.
there's a Ragnaros in Kenneth's deck. Isn't there? Did we get Ragnaros in his opening hand?
I think we were still messing with the Observer at that point. Oh no, that was the last game. No, I guess I don't remember.
Is there a Ragnaros in this deck?
I'm trying to think. Who? I know Kenneth's Warrior has a Ragnaros. I'm not sure if Gus's does.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but if there is a Ragnaros, that is another threat that he's around. But he's starting him so low on health. He's 1 damage. Oh, oh, Gus has lethal.
I wonder if he'll see it. No, wait. How does he have lethal?
Because he hits space with the 4, and the Whirlwind triggers 1 damage.
The Whirlwind will kill it. You're right. You're absolutely right. I wonder if he sees it. It looks like he's thinking about it.
Yeah, if he just goes Faith, that's lethal. Or, I mean, the Revenge is also lethal, too.
If he goes Revenge, he might accidentally... Yeah, he might realize what's happening. Oh god, if he armors up and passes...
He's
oh
gotta
no!
see it, right?
Oh no! Come on, Gus, you definitely... Oh
He
no!
just missed the lethal!
No! Miss lethal!
And then the Flush Monkey for the punish! No, Gus, no! Miss legal!
That
Did you not
is
realize the Wrath Guard effect?
rather unfortunate. I think Gus might have his blinders on and was just, looking for the straight hand lethal and not considering what was on the board.
I think Kenneth saw it. Kenneth is... He can't even play right now. He's so struck in the back that he just got... I mean, this is huge now, because now that Sludge Belcher blocks the lethal attack, and that gives Kenneth a way back into the game.
And we were discussing that earlier in this tournament, how the Wrathguard coming off of a piloted Shredder can completely change games.
Wow, I can't believe you missed that.
Well, if he ends up dropping that Revenge, he'll see what he missed, and he'll probably start kicking himself.
Yeah, I would be so devastated.
Reporting for duty.
Auto concede for sure. Alright, now what does he pick up to go with that? A Sylvanas Windrunner. Not what he needs at this point, not when he's staring down lethal. And now that Whirlwind's going to proc on the Wrathguard, and he's going to be thinking to himself, what did I do? What have I done? A pretty solid board clear. He's going to have to pick up something to answer that Sylvanas. He might not be punished for that horrible mistake.
It looks like Gus is going to get a little bit lucky there, but he almost got screwed over by a mistake. Nope, that is going to be enough. So, game 2 is going to go to Gus after a missed lethal.
Wow. So, is it unprofessional for us as casters to point out that he missed legal or ask him to go through the replays?
No, I'm sure he saw it after the Wrathguard play. I'm sure he went, oh no!
Yeah, he might have seen what he has. So Kenneth's sitting there wiping his forehead, realizing that he was that close to losing, and still ends up losing the match. But we are 1-1, bringing this to a tied series, and we're going forward.
You know, I don't think it was lethal, I hope. I think it was extended DM.
Yeah. Yeah, he knew what he was doing.
We see nothing left from Gus. Master of BM. As Canvas is laying the rope, I can't believe I lost that game. Even it's lethal, oh my goodness. The rope of shame is coming across the board now.
Just delaying the inevitable.
And there we go, you see Gus.
Good game going to Gus. He had the game initially, but does he really deserve it? Who knows? He got it. We're going on to the next round.
Absolutely. And so now we are going to see both Warriors now out of this match. They both did pick up their wins.
Passing off the mic to you, do the intros for us.
Now we are waiting for both teams to pick up their decks. if I were to speculate, I would guess that I forgot his name. I guess that Kenneth go back to his paladin as it did have a strong showing actually. And we're gonna see that Reno lock come up from Gus, and in this matchup, I think with all the threats that Kenneth has, I'm not sure if there's enough removal on the side of Gus to be able to deal with that. And there is that Ragnaros again. So there was that Ragnaros in the deck of Kenneth that we were talking about. It is in this deck, in fact. And so his Secret Paladin with Ragnaros might be able to just take the cake barely out of this Reno lock from Gus. We'll see. I think it'll be very dependent on whether or not Gus draws me. I mean, we haven't actually seen Gus take off Reno in this deck. We've never actually seen him draw the card. I mean, I assume it's in there because no one just runs a bunch of one-ofs for fun, I think. Unless he just really likes one-ofs and decided he didn't want Reno in his Reno lock deck. That would be quite an interesting development choice there. But it really is going to come down to, I think, the impacts that I think it's going to come to the big timing of Kenneth's draws. I think he's able to go 6, 7, 8, 8. Big impacts means I think that's going to be way too much for this deck to deal with. But you have to keep in mind there also is a Twisted Nether in the deck of Gus. So if Kenneth gets too big of a board, a Twisted Nether is going to be super impactful. You actually see Gus hold on to that second install instead of pitching away with it.
So unfortunately, Kenneth actually just went to the full end of his mulligan after roping at the end of the previous round. Did we drop him? And how did the next game start?
No, Kenneth mulligans.
Oh, he went all the way to the last second. Not making any plays at the moment. Is he considering what he's going to do? Oh, he's here. Excellent. All right.
Okay.
I was worried we were going to lose some of the players here in the semifinals, which would be very unfortunate.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Gus, we do see he has an extra 2 play. And the helper, though, is going to be super important later, as we've seen, a lot of paladins be very swarming. I just now noticed there's Murlocs in those Hellfires.
oh yeah, just seeing that?
Yeah,
actually,
I never noticed that before.
Yeah, if you notice, if you start looking at the back of some of the cards, the Murlocs are actually the target of a lot of things. In, I believe, 2 of the totems for the Shaman, there's a Murloc in the background being attacked.
Or Murlocs. They seem a little love. And Brand Bronzebeard, I don't think we've seen that out of Gus's deck yet. What things come about with it?
Not in the Warlock deck, we certainly haven't.
No, I think he's probably planning on comboing that with Defender of Argus later, but I'm not sure he's going to really good opportunity, as Kenneth is going to take early board control for Sheer here, and I think it's really going to be on the burden of Gus to try to clear and build this board later with that Hellfire.
Yeah, that'll definitely be a swing turn, although this Demon Rat is going to be pretty solid, especially because he has 2 demons on the board, giving him full control of the board, slowing down what his opponent was setting up. What do you do at this point? Do you go for the Pilot Shredder and the Avenge, maybe?
I think just the straight up Pilot Shredder was good, because the Contrary would have cleared the board of the in-game bots and that one little imp. It still forces you to make those the unfavorable trades or from Gus, but obviously Gus had a good response with that Void Caller, which is going to pop up Mal'Ganis for guys.
Yeah, getting Mal'Ganis at such an early turn with no obvious answers for the Paladin is huge, just huge.
Yeah, that Cockhammer is going to be such a pain in the side, as we did see that Gus's plan was to kind of go face, but now that Divine Shield is going to allow him to kill that 3/4 or 3, but unfortunately from now we do see Mal'Ganis the Turtle come down. I don't think Gus has a way to deal with that in his hand, or Kenneth does rather.
He can use Face, Consecrate, and the Piloted Shredder if he wants, but that leaves... Yeah, there's just no good answer for that.
What?
Kenneth drops out early, maybe a little premature. His Mysterious Challenger might have been able to swing the game back in his favor, but I think he realized that he wasn't sitting on any Consecrates. Kenneth completely drops from the internet, and let's see if we can go pick him up after pick him up. He might have had some internet issues. Stay tuned.
Get down!
Damn. I will hunt you down.
Well, all right then. Well played.
Okay, everyone, we are back. Kenneth's time to return is up, so Gus advances.
Congrats to him on beating his opponent. Pure, solid tips.
100% skill, no kappa.
No kappa.
Alright, so he will be playing against Fire. Third place will... Now, does third place go to Kenneth for dropping, or do we give third place to David?
I guess it's kind of both tied for third/fourth place.
Yeah, that's true. So, we will move forward and advance Gus, if we could get our admin to do that, and start setting up the next match.
We're going to see an interesting game between Gus and... who is it? Tenente Fire. Who do you think has the edge here?
Well, we've seen Gus play really well so far, but when he came up against Kenneth, he was kind of on his back heels there for a little while. I think this is anyone's match, and I'm really excited to see how it goes.
Miss Lethal was so... I mean, the Miss Lethal almost cost him the game, so let's see if he can keep his composure and not make a mistake like that against the definitely strong opponent of Tenente Fire.
Alright, trying to get both players in here. Let's see who signs up first. And we will be going on to the finals between Gus and Tenente Fire.
I'm sitting here with my jar of Nutella enjoying my life. You know how I'll be. Watching Hearthstone, eating Nutella.
Living the dream. Alright, it looks like the match is starting between the two players. Let's get it going.
Uther versus Malfurion.
I must protect the
So this is the first match of the
I
combo
will
druid
fight with honor.
versus the mid-rangey controlly paladin type guy. No, wait. This is the aggro paladin, never mind.
Yeah,
I keep
looks
getting
like we have a
closer.
pretty standard druid coming so far.
Yeah, but, oh, I like the I really do like the Ancient of War tech that we saw in the hand of Tenante Fire. Great card.
Only if you uproot, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Uprooter, Riot.
Uproot or
I think
right,
they'll-
indeed. Slow start, pretty standard between the two players. Nothing out of the ordinary.
I think what Fire really needs to pick up here is going to be a innervate. I think that's if he is able to pick up an innervate, I think he'll automatically win the game. But without it, it's going to be definitely a lot harder.
Innervate, definitely the key swing for any Druid player.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think his choices here are obviously he can pass or he can coin out the wild growth, or coin out the he can coin out the wrath and try to kill off that. Let me know where he can coin out hero power if he wants to take things a little risky.
So what do you think he does? Does he ignore this piloted shredder and go straight ham? I think with the charge minion he can drop on the board, or silence to prevent another unit from getting the board. But he's probably saving that silence for a Sludge Belcher or an Ancient of War, just so he can continue the aggression that he's set up.
I think it was very clearly got left behind in the dust by the spectator program. I was still seeing turn 1 there. I'll have to load myself back in.
So our second caster coming back into the game. He goes for the piloted shredder and unfortunately comes up against a taunt minion. That is absolutely huge for Tenente Fire, slowing down the momentum that Gus had been building. And a Sludge Belcher just to seal
so
that.
Impactful in this game.
Looks like a silence charge to pick his momentum back up. With the big minions that Tenente Fire is sitting on, I think Gus is going to get a lot of value out of that Divine Favor.
Yeah, absolutely. Look how many cards are in the hand in Tenente Fire. I would think the correct play for him is to play that Thor's hand, as that's a card that Gus is going to have to respond to.
Not necessarily. Had he played that Thorazane, he would be looking down the face of about 9 damage, which he really doesn't have to give up.
Reporting for duty.
Yeah, but I think
Thorzane's something you have when you play when you have even momentum or you're ahead, and right now he is neither.
That's true. But I do think the Thorson though would have, because it would have forced Gus to trade into the Thorson. He can't stick alive. And that would have stopped 5 damage, I think. But obviously though the base can just also big both is also strong. And now he does have that 5/10 to protect his Thorson if he chooses to stop it.
Yeah, Ancient of War absolutely huge right now. That might be the swing he needs to get back into this game. A little bit of heal and another taunt would really keep him going.
2, 4, 6, 7, 8. He can almost kill it. He can get it down to conscript range, which I think he should do.
Yeah, that would definitely give him a good follow-up play, and perhaps force lethal because he has the Arcane Golem. So
yeah, that actually would be lethal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really up to Tenente Fire at this point to draw a threat.
He needs to get a heal or a taunt here.
Oh, that is not what he needed.
Potentially draw. Oh, we know the armor up is going to save him a little bit.
If he can clear the board, but I don't think he can fully clear the board. Nope, he just put himself down to 5. That'll do it.
So we're going to see game 2 go to Gus. That's going to put him up what? Is that going to be 1-1 then?
I think it's 1-0. Isn't this the first match? Yeah, this is the first match. It's 1-0.
I've already casted too many games.
And this was a pretty small tournament. Well, I can understand how getting tired during casting would be something, and I can see why the bigger tournaments have so many casters. First game going to Gus, starting his 3-0 sweep maybe, as he's been doing in the tournaments.
Yeah, Gus hasn't dropped, or he's only dropped 1 game so far. He dropped 1 game in 0 matches so far, so Gus is definitely looking in a really good spot to win the finals of this tournament.
Certainly, and we've seen Gus's decks time and time again. They're proven, they're tested, and he knows how to play them. Even when he does miss lethal, he comes back.
I'm actually really surprised. I think out of all these decks, I'm surprised most by the success of his Primo War.
Really? Now,
Yeah,
what makes you say that?
I just don't think. I think Reno Warlock is just a more gimmicky and less consistent version of Handlock.
True. But Handlock anymore doesn't play so well in the meta because you have to survive the early threats. I mean, and the meta anymore is just pure aggro.
It's definitely also true. But no, I think, unfortunately for Tenante Fire, I think it's going to be definitely an uphill battle for him against Gus, as his Control Warrior is very well suited to deal with the Face Hunter. So I think what's really going to come down to is Tenante Fire. Oh, unfortunately, I think that was a pretty big misplay there, playing the Explosive Trap, because it doesn't maximize his damage. And I think when you're playing Face Hunter, what you have to do is you have to hero power as much as possible, because that 2 damage is 2 damage you get for free every turn. He'll eventually get that Explosive Trap damage off later anyway, but he won't get that steady shot off now. And now he's going to give a free bunch of armor to Tenante Fire from that Explosive Trap.
Tenante Fire is the one who's giving the armor to Gus.
Yeah.
And I think Tenante Fire, with his didn't quite hit the mark, realizes what he's done, and it's too late to take it back for sure. The best card he could have, the best minion he could have gotten, but a Fiery Wind Axe will take care of it, or a Bash to add up a little bit of armor. The card draws are just going in Gus' favor. A very strong start in this finals.
Yeah, absolutely. This is already a little bit of a hard matchup for Tenante Fire, as obviously Control Warrior does have the advantage of all the techniques he can use to stop aggro. We've already seen that Tenante Fire had a kind of bad draw with those double Arcane Golems, and he was not really using his mana as suspiciously as he could have been to deal the maximum amount of damage.
And those Arcane Golems aren't going to sit on the board for very long, especially when he drops that Unstable Ghoul and uses the Fiery Wind Axe. That extra mana crystal is just going to help him drop his bigger threat minions later in the game, and it looks like this game will go late, which is rather unfortunate for the Face Hunter.
Yeah, obviously the Face Hunter wants to end the game as soon as possible. By turn 4, you do not want to see your opponent still sitting at 25 health.
How do you think it would have gone differently if Tenante Fire had recycled the aggro lock that he was using last round?
For the Druid?
Oh, Druid, I'm sorry.
I mean, I think Druid obviously is probably the... Control Warrior, honestly, if played well, can beat about any deck. But I think out of all the decks, obviously I think the combo Druid has the best chance of beating Control Warrior. I sometimes can just get really, crazy insane starts and then crazy insane finishes with things like double combo or triple combo.
Yeah, very true. Giving him the time to draw what he needs, especially against someone else who's drawing very slow and playing control. Very big pickup. Having the kill for the silence for the Unstable Ghoul. He'll be able to put quite a bit of damage on the ham. At this point, I think Brawl is your best bet, but that just evens out the board. That doesn't give him any momentum.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you can either Brawl or even Shield Maiden here is probably not even that bad of an option. That Lothar, though, is going to be a lot of damage coming down from this hand of Tenante Fire, and obviously Gus is not going to be able to have a good response to that, as the Lothar will stop all his spells.
So if I was Gus, I would have put the Unstable Ghoul up against the Ironbeak Owl to get the extra hit point, but unfortunately that would have prevented this Brawl from grabbing the Ironbeak Owl. Interesting play either direction. He got lucky on that Brawl.
Yeah, because I think you definitely didn't want either one of those Arcane Golems to survive that. I think obviously one of his minions or the Owl was best. And actually now it seems like in the unfavorable matchup we may see Tenante Fire win, as he's facing down, he's going to be putting Gus really low on this thing.
Next round possibly dropping him down to 8, but not enough to win yet, unless he starts picking up some recyclable damage. Quick Shot, for example. I don't think we've seen a single kill command in either time that we've seen his Face Hunter, but we've seen his Face Hunter work with devastating effect, lots of damage coming down. He's going to put his opponent down to 5 with no direct armor draw at this point, and a mind control tech that just falls short. He might have to go ham and Brawl again.
Yeah, I think you have to put a lot of faith in the Brawl yet again. I think you actually played the Acidic Swans first to try to maximize your chances, because if any one of these survive, you're probably toast. As you're definitely going to be taking up whatever damage Tenante Fire will draw
plus whatever he gets left on the board.
And the Swamp
And if you
Boost
don't
takes away
kill
that
the
extra
basic
2
guy,
damage
well.
from the weapon that the hunter's sitting on. This game is very intense.
Yeah, I think absolutely correct play there was. You have to go face with the Shield Maiden, play the 6 Swamp Boost, armor up, and roll on over the rest. Oh.
Good play, good
Now-
play. Let's see if the RNGesus God is on his side. That owl is the champion of fucking brawls.
Yeah, that's the worst one for him, but I think he still would have been best off playing the Swamp Boost first to maximize the chance of being the guy.
He's
That's
like
not gonna be enough to finish the game.
that unruly patron that always wins the brawls in the adventure from Blackrock Mountain.
Absolutely. MVP Owl, please nerf.
So he doesn't have enough to clear the board at the moment, and he can only armor. So their hero powers are canceling each other out at this point. The hunter needs to find 2 damage to end this game, which, as a face hunter, shouldn't be too hard to do.
He's already burned through 2 Arcane Golems, but he does have a quick shot left. He should have, and that will also do it. The Blazizuka will finish the game.
Blazizuka ends the game. We are going 1-1. Excellent start to this grand final.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to go deep into the finals, probably even Game 5, which is definitely what we want to see after all these sweeps. And I think it's good for Tenants Fire that he beat the Control Warrior with the face hunter, because that's a very bad matchup for him. And so I think definitely the low tab and having those later drops is super influential in Tenants Fire's victory, as he was able to have a little bit of bigger threats in the late game. So that Gek was obviously able to do a little bit better against Control Warrior, which turned out to be very good for him.
So what does that warrior have to go up against later? Let's assume we go to the final match.
Your soul shall be mine.
So obviously, if you're Gus here, you want to win this game, of course. But then you still have to face down that Druid with your Control Warrior, which is obviously not really the matchup you want. And then what other class? Is it Paladin that he's running?
I believe. Yes, I believe you're correct.
Yeah, so the other deck from, no, it's Rogue from Fire. It's that, it's the Death Rattle Rogue from Tenants Fire.
That's right, that's right.
I think, Gus's Control Warrior deck will do well against that one. I mean, obviously, this matchup here can go either way. Because, but I think the good thing for Tenants Fire about Combo Druid is you can force Gus into an awkward situation. Unless he has to Reno at somewhere around 14 life, because he can't afford to go below that. So he may basically force Gus to Reno in a position where he doesn't get the max amount of value.
Gus is going to the full mulligan and actually does not swap out any cards for the mulligan. Oh wait, yes he did. At the last second he swapped out 2. Maybe that's a spectator bug.
Who knows? And we do see a really good starting hand from Gus that's very reactive. And unfortunately for Tenants Fire, nothing in his hand is really going to be proactive, which is what the Druid needs in this matchup.
Excellent curve for Gus, but he doesn't have any threats to put on the board, and the only thing that Tenante Fire has right now is answers, so both players are just kind of sitting and waiting. This gives an advantage to the Warlock as he can draw cards faster.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Warlock also is going to benefit later in the late game with cards like Draxus, with cards like Canis, with cards like Reno. So I think, just based on this opening, I think Gus has the advantage when no cards are dropped until turn 4.
Very true, very true. So we've got some higher end minions coming here for our Druid player. That Innervate's going to be very essential for getting those minions out early. But again, as we just discussed, Gus is just full of answers right now.
Yeah, absolutely. We do see, I think if you're Gus, you obviously have to life tap here. But do you think if you're Tenants Fire, do you innovate out the Sludge Buster on turn 3, or do you wait, to innovate out the Thaurissan on turn 4?
See, if you innovate out the Thaurissan, you're getting a reduction on your Savage Roar, which could help you combo to win the end of the game, but doesn't really do a whole lot else because your Innervate is essentially what the Thaurissan is doing for you. I think it's really going to depend on what he draws next round to decide if it's worth it to drop that Innervate. A lot of thinking coming out of Gus. Are we seeing internet issues, or is he really just contemplating? I mean, what? He can't coin anything good out, and he doesn't have any target for that implosion.
I think he was just considering whether to tap or not. Maybe he was doing some. Maybe taking his time, to. Sometimes I do that at games where I take my time to consider all the options. So it looks like he's going to innovate out that Sludger to get some pressure on.
Now, you see, in this case, I probably would have waited to innovate out the Thorazane, because a Sludge Belter and a Druid of the Claw would do a whole lot for keeping control of the board. Void Collaring out a Jiraxis is obviously very good early game. Getting another Innovate's fantastic.
Yeah, that's going to be a crazy lead for Timothy Fire. That's exactly what he wanted.
Excellent choice in ignoring the Sludge Belcher.
Yeah, and I think unfortunately though, you don't really even want to. I think, especially with the deck that Gus has here, I don't even think you really want to have Jiraxis come out of the Void Call. I think that's probably not your optimal need to get out of that. But unfortunately for him, he can't actually even deal with the Thorson, so it's going to stay alive for at least on the turn, which can allow some really crazy crap with the combo later.
Reduced cards doing very well. Bri, check the admin chat. The admin's reaching out to you. Jiraxis coming out for Gus. It looks like Tenente Fire is completely unfazed by that. Having 2 taunts in hand and going full ham, he's got a piece of the combo already. It looks like that Jiraxis isn't going to do nearly as much as Gus was hoping, and he might be looking at losing his second game in this grand final.
Yeah, so I think if you're Gus here, I think you kind of have to try to kill that. Well, he doesn't have really a way to kill a Thorson. He might be able to silence it, and then, but he still doesn't have any really good follow-up after that.
Yeah, very true. Silence is the obvious choice to keep that Thorazane having options, because he really needs to do something about giving the Jiraxis the option of taking down that Emperor Thorazane, because he definitely needed to take care of that.
I think what he did was the right play, but obviously his order was a little bit off, where he should have Demon Wrath before silencing, because then you still have that owl on board.
Am I reading this wrong? Oh, okay, no, I'm not. So we've got a Defender of Argus, which you would have preferred last round, to put the taunt up on that full health Jiraxis, and he just used his silence, so he can't drop it here on this Ancient of War. Kind of a interesting situation he's in. He can use the Implosion, but he opts for the Sludge Belter just to take the time to draw something else, maybe drop that Thorazane, reduce the cost. He definitely needs to find himself some heals.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Gus is in a sticky situation where all the cards in his hand are super awkward, where the Implosion doesn't really have a super good target, where the all the super big threats on the side of Tenente Fire can't be VG'd, so he doesn't have a whole lot he can really go off of to get himself ahead. And he's still trying to fight for board, and he just doesn't have the tools to really get there, especially since we saw so many ticks come off that. Is this lethal?
No, I don't think so. Too many threats to go through. Oh, I miscounted Sap Casters, 13 damage right to the dome. Tenente Fire takes a second win and puts himself at match point for the grand finale and taking this entire tournament over Gus.
I did not even see the lethal. I'm Sapcasting.
Sapcasters.
Absolutely. Thank you, Darkhaven, for the dank memes.
Oh, absolutely. Did you watch Awesome Games Done Quickly over the winter?
I did not.
There was a guy who he was doing a Halo 4 run, and he kept saying basically, like every sentence he said basically, and the chat was just going nuts, dropping dang memes on them. All right, the next game's starting up. We'll jump right into it.
So it's what? Is it 1-1 or is it 2-1?
2-1. Tenente Fire is on match point, and he has to use his Death Rattle Oil Rogue to take this series. Now, how does that Oil Rogue match up against this mid-range Reno Lock, and then followed up by, I believe, a Warrior? Oh no, what is?
Yeah, it's a Warrior.
Gus won with his Paladin, right?
Oh yeah, no. So it is the Paladin, right?
Okay, yeah, Paladin.
Paladin.
Okay, so I think it's a good matchup here against this Reno Lock, but he's gonna have a lot of trouble against the Paladin, mostly because he doesn't have enough taunts.
And also, this is you rarely ever have to ask yourself, Reno Warlock versus Death Rattle Rogue. It's not super common
No, it's not something that happens very often.
So I think it's going to. I think both players have. I would say they're probably about an equal amount to win, because since the Fire stack is obviously a bit aggressive and Reno's good at countering that. I think if the game goes long enough, I think Gus will win. But if Tennessee Fire is able to end it, they're going to win.
Yeah, very true. Very slow start from both players. They're just kind of feeling each other out, trying to get the draws they need. They both got very big hands, but not enough mana to work with. Does he drop this Void Caller and try and get Drexus out early again?
Again, I don't think Drax, especially like Drax is on its own as a lane position. So I don't really think, unless you have the, I mean, he does have the direct way to taunt it up, which is good, especially since his goal is to survive in this game. But I'm not sure if it's worth having your Drax just not be available for late game when you want to use it on yourself as a win condition.
You know, he's won with this hand, being able to use the Jiraxis and the heals that he has sitting on board to go with it. So it seems, and I might be remembering correctly, every time he's dropped Jiraxis early, he hasn't got the chance to win.
Yeah, I think he's only, well, he's played it on himself, I think, once. I think we've seen him had a drop with a Void Caller once.
But he lost that round, obviously, because he's using it again. And that was actually just the previous match against the Druid.
Oh,
So,
wow. So he's playing
Full Ham
basically-
Tenente takes a strong lead. Sorry to cut you off there.
I think actually though that was a really good option for him, because now Gus doesn't have a good way to clear the board here, and I think with Tempting Fire going face, he's saying, you know what, I still have 2 more decks to go through, even if I lose this one. So I think it's worth taking the risk here. He's trying to metagame a little bit, and still, even all Gus has the availability to do is kill a maximum of 2 minions, because he can Dark Bomb 1, and then he can kill. Then he can kill either the Sludge Belcher or the Taunted Duke.
Yeah, true. Yeah, this is a tough hand. He leaves very small threats on the board, but he leaves several of them, which isn't to his advantage. Perhaps he pops the Shredder and sees what's underneath the hood. Maybe he'll get something good.
I think you get to hope for a Doomsday here and then taunt up your 4/6 and hope that Tenant of Fire can't kill it.
You can't taunt up a Doomsayer. Oh, I'm sorry. You can. You taunt up that 4/6 to sacrifice the board. I see what you're saying. Ooh, I see. I would have seen what's under the hood first.
Yeah, I agree. I think you definitely want to see what's under your Shredder before you make a play like that.
But if it is a Doomsayer or an Unstable Ghoul, or hell, even a Sheep, well, that's pretty good. Yeah, if it was an explosive Sheep.
We've got an extra juggle. I think we are just going to see, though,
Full ham.
Tenant of Fire is going to go ham, and he's going to try to close this out as fast as he possibly can.
He is that close to the win, and he does have a little wiggle room to be dangerous, because what will he if he wins, he'll be up against a warrior next, right?
The Paladin.
The Paladins, right?
Yeah, we're confusing each other over here.
Yeah, we are. Oh, very low hit points.
Yeah, but Taunted is really good from now.
A
Ooh,
taunted,
good snipe.
a taunted Lothip's very, very good for him right now. He can start clearing the board, which is what he has to do. He can't leave these threats down.
Yeah, absolutely not.
I think I would have done that a little differently.
Yeah.
But maybe he was thinking right, because that keeps this mostly alive.
Yeah, I think he's one of the most amount of help on his top minions.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so we're not calculating this right. This match is super exciting. I'm rooting for Gus, honestly. I would like to see an ace match, 2 for 2 for the grand final.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it looks like Gus is going to be able to make a recovery. He's going to be able to put up another taunt, have another snipe, and or another knife rather. And so he's going to be able to get a lot of the board.
Perfect snipe.
Yeah, it's going to be, especially with snipes like that, it's going to be hard for Tenant Fire to work through this board.
All he needs to do is play it slow and methodical. Use your Jiraxis to pop that Shredder. Then hopefully you can trade your Shield Maiden evenly for it. Use your Belcher to clear. Pray. Interesting choice.
Yeah, I think I would have feared the Draxus instead. But I guess he was more afraid of something scary coming out of that the Nitro to move wasn't going to
Yeah, keep the damage open so you can clear a Doomsayer if it lands. A lot of card draw coming down for the Rogue, and he's going to find answers. Oh, Reno, that is
draw.
huge.
Oh, that's going to be so important. I might.
Now, he very, very confidently taps. Do we get a little emote? A little sorry that happened?
I'd like the oops. A person for a whoops.
Boom, Reno.
Reno checks Brony.
That is absolutely huge. And full ham, ignoring the loot hoarder, and why not? You've got a full board. He doesn't have any threats right now. It looks like this game's going to go 2-2.
Amazing stabilization from Gus there.
Looks like he's digging and praying.
I think that was
And he calls it. Znente Fire, giving the game to Gus. 2-2, we're going to the ace match in this grand final.
Yes, this is absolutely one to see. Great close matches. And I think it's going to come down to the fact of, in this next match, both of these decks are extremely aggressive. But I think the way Gus built his deck, I think Gus's Paladin deck beats other aggressive decks because it doesn't care about the board at all. It doesn't care about trading. It's got tons of buffs and tons of charges. And I think because Gus is running more offense, I think he does have the advantage.
Definitely. So we're coming down to the finals. We've got Paladin versus Death Rattle Rogue. How does this play out?
Yeah, obviously, like I said, I think Gus's deck is just going to be more aggressive. And I think in the battle of aggressive decks, I think the most aggressive deck wins. And so I think I'd have to give it to Gus to advantage here. But I mean, obviously, it's Hearthstone, so it depends on player skill and on the RNG system as well as system.
Very true. The players are both still kind of sitting. I can't imagine they're having trouble picking what deck they're going to play because they've only each got one left. But the game has not started yet, and you get to listen to us prattle on. Oh, here the game launches.
Yeah, Hearthstone.
Hera versus Valir.
What?
Watch your...
Are we crazy?
Victory or death!
I don't think so. No, it looks like the admin's confirming he'd be up against Warrior, not Paladin.
Oh, that's right, because he lost to the Warriors of the Face Hunter, which you said was weird. Yeah, that's right. I still think that...
And the admin's making fun of you.
I am just crazy. I am insane.
Alright, well, we are starting the opening rounds of this ace match in the grand final. Exactly what we were hoping for. Two wonderful players. Couldn't ask for anyone better. I'm actually kind of glad that we dropped, what was it, XXX? Earlier? Yeah. No, it was Kenneth.
Oh, Kenneth.
Because this is an exciting match, and like I said, I couldn't ask for anything better.
Give the edge to here.
Interesting start with the Unstable Ghoul. It's the only low minion he had. He had to get something on the board to start absorbing those, the control out of this rogue. It wasn't the best play. I think it was the only play.
Yeah, absolutely. I think.
Do you like the mind control tech here, just to keep threats?
No, I don't think it's worth it. I think with this matchup for Gus, I think it's all about just controlling and running Znente Fire out of threats. This deck obviously runs a lot of synergy with all those pepperonis, and so I think if you're able to use that mind control deck to steal something valuable later, I think it's going to be worth holding on to.
But, well, yeah, I guess the rogue with the Death Rattle is likely to put very many small threats down on the board. A little bit of sap aimed at the casters. And he gets the board all to himself with a piloted Shredder and a disguise... Nope. I'm wrong. He's going to buff the piloted Shredder and drop a Loot Hoarder for a little bit more draw.
He's going to go to face right away. And that's actually going to put a whole lot of pressure onto Gus. Fortunately for Gus, he has that big game hunter, which might be that's kind of a risky play. And,
very unfortunate drop. A lot of damage staring him down right now. He can use the Loot Hoarder to clear the board, Loatheb to keep control of the board, go ham for 4, and keep that extra 3 damage for Blade Fury later if he needs.
But again,
Massive
Gus
play.
has those tools to keep his health up with the Shield Maiden and even the Sludge Bug if he wants to.
Gus is certainly not out of this game, but he is behind at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna have to see though if Tenente Fire runs himself out of cards, because that's gonna be his downfall. Because Gus has to keep the card advantage up and the board advantage up, and right now he's not really staying high and mighty on that board advantage.
Tenente Fire leveraging his face for a little bit of threat removal here. I personally would have gone with Dr. Balance, but he does have a full board here. Brawl is probably the way to go, and hope for the execute on the Lotheb. Other than that, he can fire a Wind Axe as long as it's not the Azure Drake.
He also does have the option to MC Tech here.
MC Tech is pretty solid, but he doesn't have anything to play with it.
Yeah, like I wouldn't advise the MC Tech, but it totally is an option.
I mean, the only thing he could MC Tech would be the Azure Drake. Everything else is a miss. Execute clears the
And he does
board,
get that lucky drop.
and he can armor up or fire a Wind Axe.
But now we see that card advantage that, like we were talking about earlier, that Tenente Fire really doesn't win.
Oh, he didn't
And,
have enough mana. Set casters. Another brawl. Suffers a lot of face damage if he does.
Oh no, yeah, the MC Tech.
And then brawl. Excellent choice.
Or you can Sludge Boucher too. Also, the MC Tech's gonna get the Doctor Boom anyways. So if you're gonna play a 3-mana Doctor Boom, that's a pretty good option.
MC Tech Battle Cry. Take Dr. Boom.
Unfortunately, he does not get that lucky. But now we are seeing Tenente Fire though. He's on the edge. He's running out of cards in his hand. And this is where we see Gus turn the tide in the previous game, where Tenente Fire's decks kind of run out of juice.
Tenente Fire is not drawing the damage and threats that he needs. But he is taking commanding control of this board.
Yeah, it's a good roll, but we still see another brawl in the hand of Gus. So Gus can just trade his left Lipier Gnome into the
What
into the
leper
Haunted
gnome?
Reaper. Oh no!
Ooh.
That's so unfortunate.
Armor Smith Brawl and Pray?
I think you have to.
That's about all he's got left.
You also could Shield Boar and Shield Maiden and save the brawl for another turn.
Now, if we look, Tenente Fire has nothing in his hand. This brawl decides the game. Oh my god!
Oh,
And that is
no!
it!
Well played!
Congratulations
Tenente Fire
to,
is our victor.
congratulations to Gus moving through the... Gus, right?
No, Tenente Fire won.
Tenente Fire. Oh man. Congratulations to Tenente Fire. Moving through to take the win. Absolutely
Well
great.
played. Well played by both players. Yes, Arcade and the esports did win the day. It all came down to that MC Tech though.
Actually, they're a little behind. I think he was esporting the Reno.
Oh, that too, yeah. But esports definitely was prevalent in this.
Okay, so we've seen some great games today. Gus moving through undefeated up against until he obviously DDoS attacked Kenneth and then moved on to the final to win an ace match. What do you think about the tournament? I mean, I just think it was fantastic.
Yeah, I think for our first tournament here of Evertech Gaming, that was a great showing from all players. I mean, obviously, we saw some skill, we saw some exciting RNG moments, everything you could really want from a Hearthstone tournament.
The only thing I would have liked to have seen different was a little bit of Priest, because I'm a little bit partial to Priest myself. Thank you, all the participants, for joining. Can we get the admin in here just to say a few words before we end this stream?
Yo,
Hello.
you can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Alright, cool. Alright,
What do you
just
think about our first
okay,
Hearthstone
my audio,
tournament?
so... Alright, there we go. Well, I want to first off thanks everyone who participated. Hopefully we can get a few more check-ins next time, but otherwise it worked out really well. Everything went really smooth, and everyone responded with tremendous speed, so thank you everyone.
I think for one of the first Hearthstone tournaments that Vipertech Gaming has done, this one went very smooth. We had some great matches. We only had one drop. Couldn't have asked for anything better. I was IHOP TV. You can reach me at ihoptvstreaming@gmail.com or check out my IHOP TV channel on Twitch or on Twitter.
And I'm Brybar. You can reach me at Brybar_Twitch. And I'm also the one of the main casters over at our Heroes of the Storm team. I've been casting those the past weeks, and I will be definitely doing that in the near future. So if you like me and my pretty voice, you can go ahead and check out those casts and those amazing Heroes of the Storm tournaments.
ViperTech, Edmund, what do you have coming up next?
Well, I want everyone to be reminded that Hearthstone is not the only game we host tournaments for. We occasionally host tournaments for StarCraft, regularly for Heroes of the Storm, and a lot more coming up. So be ready to watch out for our Heroes of the Storm tournaments, especially some prized ones that will be coming up soon.
Excellent. Well, this has been a great night, some great games, and we hope to catch you next time. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.